Master Liaowu put his palms together and said to Master Lan and the others, "Everyone, did you also hear the news?" Master Lan and the others nodded one after another and began to chat with Master Liaowu. They more or less suspected that the news was spread by the Zen sect. However, when they saw that Master Liaowu did not look guilty at all, they could not help but have some doubts in their hearts. Could it be that this Lianxing mountain range really had an important treasure? While everyone was chatting, flying spiritual devices landed one after another. Among them was the flying spiritual device of the Zen sect of bitterness. Master Liaowu sneered in his heart. However, when he saw Master Xuanji coming down, he still stepped forward and wanted to say a few words of courtesy. After a day of adjustment, Master Xuanzi's mood had calmed down a lot. He looked like an accomplished monk. He had received the news from the Divine Devil Hall that the people ambushed by the Divine Devil Hall had retreated. The Zen sect was really good at scheming. However, it was not so easy for the Zen sect to retreat in one piece. He wanted to see how the Zen sect would continue to perform. Thinking of this, Master Xuanji sneered, "Master Liaowu, our bitter Zen sect happened to catch a few people, and these people are the source of the rumors. According to them, someone hired them to spread the news that there was a treasure in Lianxing mountain range, and the person who hired them was your Zen sect. How do you explain this?" Master Xuanzi's words immediately attracted the attention of many people. Everyone looked at Master Liaowu suspiciously. If what Master Xuanji said was true, then wouldn't they be fooled by the Zen sect? After all, Master Liaowu was the sect master of the Zen sect. He had seen a lot of storms. Naturally, he wouldn't be confused by Master Xuanzi's words. Master Liaowu sighed. "Master Xuanji, I know that you are unwilling because you lost the competition of the 10,000 Buddhist Dharma Assembly, but you shouldn't throw dirty water on our Zen sect. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Come only when there is a motive will there be action. Tell me, why did our Zen sect do this? What benefits does this have for our Zen sect?" Master Xuanji was choked by the question. He could not say that the bitter Zen sect and the Divine Devil Hall had discussed it and that the Divine Devil Hall's people were going to ambush the Zen sect in the Lianxing mountain range, right? However, he quickly found an excuse. "I don't know about this. These are the words of those who were captured. Men, bring those people up." Immediately, the Zen sect disciples brought a few people up. Those people begged for mercy. These are the words of the Zen sect disciples. "We have no choice." Yes, and that lonely little Buddha was also asked by the Zen sect to lead the public opinion. "In fact, we don't believe that he is a Buddha at all." Panda's novel. Master Liaowu couldn't help but feel a little uncertain. Could these people be the people that Yun Chujio hired? This was bad. However, he felt a little relieved when he saw Yun Chujio's calm expression. Even if these people were really hired by Yun Chujio, they didn't have any real evidence and just refused to admit it. "Master Xuanji, how can you accuse us with just a few people? This is too ridiculous." Master Liaowu sneered. Master Xuanji also sneered, "Right and wrong are at the heart of the people. I believe that everyone has their own judgment. Your Zen sect has always considered yourselves as a noble sect. I didn't expect you to use such a low-class method." When the crowd heard Master Xuanzi's words, they looked at Yun Chujio with a complicated expression. Let's not talk about whether these people were real or not. Now that they recalled the 10,000 Buddha's Dharma Assembly, some of them seemed to be very happy. They were all talking to Lonesome. Was he really the one who hired them? Were they all fooled by him? At this time Yun Chujio smiled faintly. "Amit Ba. Almsgivers claimed that the disciples of our Zen sect hired you. Then which disciple hired you?" The eyes of those people flickered a few times. One of them said, "The person who hired me wore a mask. I didn't see his face clearly." Panda's novel. That person stammered, "Because he is bald and he is wearing a Buddhist bead." Yun Chujio's smile grew deeper. Bald, and he is from the Zen sect with a Buddhist bead? It seems that the people of the bitter Zen sect also dress like this, right? Why do you think that it is the people of the Zen sect who hired you? Also, your words are somewhat contradictory. Since the person who hired you doesn't want to expose his identity, why did he purposely let you see his baldy and Buddha beads? Could it be that he is a fool? That person was rendered speechless by Yun Chujio's few questions and did not say a word for a long time. Yun Chujio sighed. This penniless monk has never been a person who fakes for fame. If this penniless monk cares about these false reputations, why do I have to hide in the 1,000 Buddha cave all the time? The reason why this penniless monk had followed Master and the others to participate in the 10,000 Buddha Dharma Assembly was also because the Buddha had enlightened them and wanted to distribute the Buddha lotus water. Who would have thought that he would now suffer such slander and criticism? Forget it, this penniless monk doesn't care about these things at all. You can say whatever you want. As the saying goes, those who are clear will be clear and those who are muddled will be muddled. Regardless of whether it is this penniless monk or the Zen sect who are doing the right thing and doing the right thing, there is no need to waste time on these things. After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she did not interrogate those people anymore. Instead, she said to Master Liaowu, "Master, let's continue on our journey. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." Sometimes the best way to deal with gossip was not to deal with it. As time passed, it would naturally fade away. Master Liaowu shook his head with a bitter smile. He no longer paid attention to Master Xuanji and ordered the Zen sect disciples to continue on their journey. The crowd of onlookers thought about what had just happened and could not tell who was telling the truth. Therefore they decided to follow the Zen sect people into the Lianxing mountain range to have a look. Since they were already here, what if it was true? Master Xuanji thought that the Zen sect would definitely incur the wrath of the crowd after such a disturbance. In the end, that lone managed to pull the Zen sect out with just a few words. He was really sharp-tongued. However, he did not intend to give up just like that. The seeds of suspicion had already been planted. When the crowd could not find anything, he would fan the flames again. He did not believe that those people would still be so calm. Hence, Master Xuanji brought the people from the Zen sect of bitterness and followed closely into the Lianxing mountain range. As the name implied, the Lianxing mountain range had the shape of a musical instrument sheng. The mountain peaks were undulating with strange rocks and craggy rocks. The road was very difficult to traverse. Even for these cultivators, their speed was not very fast. In addition, some people came here with the intention of searching for treasures. They searched around and their speed became slower and slower. Almost everyone was searching around. The Zen sect people did not want to be too abrupt, so they slowed down their pace and pretended to knock around. Chapter 52:26 stabilizes the character setting. Master Xuanji looked at them coldly and sneered in his heart. This Lianxing mountain range didn't even have a few high-level herbs, let alone valuable treasures. It would be a miracle if they could find any treasures. After leaving this Lianxing mountain range, he had to prove that the Zen sect was guilty of spreading rumors. He had to make them the target of public criticism so that they could attack the Zen sect in the future. At first it was still fine. Everyone searched around for treasure, but after half a day, they did not find anything valuable. Some people began to complain. There is indeed nothing here. It seems that Master Xuanji is right. Maybe the rumor was spread by the Zen sect. But why did the Zen sect spread the rumor? What good is it to them? Look, not only is the Lianxing mountain range prohibited from flying, but they can't use talisman seals. Maybe the Zen sect is afraid of danger, so they dragged us along with them. It's really wicked. It can't be, right? I think the Zen sect and lonely little Buddha don't look like such a person. Humph. You know people but you don't know people. Moreover, Jisoo didn't say lonely, said Lianxing mountain range, half-heartedly. He deliberately misled us. Yun Chujie's heart skipped a beat when she heard these rumors. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have let Jisoo act. It seemed like she was overdoing it. Although she could think of a way to remedy the situation after she got out, the effect wouldn't be too good. It would be best if she could really find some treasure in Lianxing mountain range. However, there was nothing in this lousy place. How could there be any treasure? Because this guy was too focused on his thoughts, he did not notice that there was a protruding rock under his feet. He almost tripped and fell. This guy was so angry. If it were not for the fact that she had to maintain the image of lonely little Buddha, she would have smashed this damn rock into pieces. Jisoo saw that Yun Chujio almost fell down and quickly asked, "Junior brother Lonely, are you okay?" Although Hei Xinjiu was annoyed, she said, "I'm fine. It's just that this stone..." Hei Xinjia's words came to an abrupt end because this guy realized that the stone that almost tripped her was not an ordinary stone. There were actually patterns on it. Yun Chujio did not care about the dirt and used her sleeve to wipe off the soil on the surface of the stone. After seeing the patterns on it clearly, her little heart thumped non-stop. She had seen this pattern before and it was exactly the same as the stone slabs laid on the streets of Supreme City. How could there be such a stone here? Only then did Yun Chujio notice that this stone should only reveal a corner, and if it was dug out, it should be a bluestone slab. Yun Chujio was hesitating whether to dig out this bluestone slab, and there were already quite a number of people gathered around her. Someone who had entered Supreme City immediately exclaimed, This pattern is actually the same as the patterns in Supreme City. Could it be that there's a treasure underneath?" With his shout, more and more people gathered. Yun Chujio thought to herself, who cares if he has a treasure or not? With this green stone slab, she could shut Master Xuanzi's mouth. She had to admit that her luck was not bad. She could find something good just by tripping over it. Therefore this guy said calmly, "Everyone be quiet. As the saying goes, those who see it will have a share. If there really is a treasure underneath, this penniless monk and the Zen sect will not keep it all for themselves." As soon as these words left his mouth, this fellow's character, which had been somewhat destroyed previously, once again stabilized. He wanted to see lonely little Buddha's luck. He had casually found this bluestone tablet, and he was not greedy for money. How could such a kind person hire a child? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 52:27. The delightful Goei Batsao. At this moment, Master Liaowu and the others also gathered around and asked a few simple questions. Then they got Ji Kong and the others to start digging up that greenstone slab. Everyone looked at it nervously. Naturally, what they wanted was not this greenstone slab. Since this greenstone slab was the same as the one in the Supreme City, perhaps there was an ancient ruin underneath it. It was something from the ancient times. Even if it was just a random item, it would still be a good thing. Yun Chujio was slightly distracted. When she thought of the Supreme City, she thought of Yun Qi and Ruier. Then she thought of the last part of the Emperor Shin's sentence. What did he want to say about Yun Qi? Also, what secret did he want to say about the ancient Mesozoic era? By the time Yun Chujio regained her senses, Ji Kong and the others had already dug out that greenstone slab. However, other than that greenstone slab there was nothing else. The group was unwilling to give up and began to dig nearby. Not to mention there were people who dug out similar bluestone slabs one after another. However, most of them were dilapidated. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Even so, the group was still very excited. This was enough to prove that this place was definitely an ancient ruin. Perhaps there would be good things down there. Hence, the digging became even more intense. Unfortunately, after digging for a few hours, other than those green stone slabs, they didn't find anything else. Everyone couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. Now it was a little useless. If they dug, they might not be able to dig anything. If they didn't dig, they wouldn't be satisfied. Master Liaowu was afraid that it would be too late, so he ordered the Zen sect disciples to continue on their journey and not to stay here. When everyone saw that the Zen sect people had left, they could only dejectedly follow them. After all, there were quite a number of demonic beasts in the Lianxing mountain range. If they were left alone, it would be easy for them to get into danger. Yun Chujio walked for a while and thought for a while. Then she turned back and put away the green stone slabs. Although these things were not valuable, the patterns were still quite nice. It would be nice to build a kennel for dog too. Seeing this, no one said anything because everyone knew that the green stone slabs were not valuable. Half a day later, the crowd left the Lianxing mountain range. Although they did not find any treasure because they found the green stone slabs, they put aside the rumors from before. Master Xuanji knew that it was useless to bring it up again, so he simply did not say anything more. He only looked at Yun Chujio with an exceptionally fierce gaze. Yun Chujio did not care at all. What a joke. If her gaze could kill, her grave grass would probably be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the sun. After some small talk, everyone set off. One day later, the Zen sect returned to the Zen sect. The moment the flying spiritual device landed, the Zen sect finally felt at ease. Although this trip had been full of twists and turns, the result was good. Even if the bitter Zen sect really wanted to attack the Zen sect in the future, their Zen sect had already taken the moral high ground, so they were not afraid of them. Yun Chujio originally wanted to directly ask Master Liaowu about her parents, but because she had been out for many days, the Zen sect had many things that needed Master Liaowu to deal with, so Yun Chujio had to return to her residence first. Anyway, if she ran away, the monk would not be able to run away from the temple, so she was not afraid that Master Liaowu would not keep his word. After this guy returned to his residence, he washed up and began to lie on the bed to catch up on his sleep. Goei Batsao sneakily climbed out of his boots. He jumped on the ground a few times. It was time for him to move freely. He left the wooden house and jumped into the still spring. He waved the grass leaves and swam for a while, then floated on the still spring to bask in the sun. He felt that this small day was simply wonderful. If only he had Xiaomogu to accompany him. What he meant was that with such a tall and elegant grass patch, he needed a maid to serve him, right? Chapter 52:28. One day as a teacher, one lifetime as a father. Yun Chujio slept until sunset. She left the wooden house and began to cultivate beside the still spring. In fact, the still spring did not have much effect on her. She just felt that the scenery here was not bad, so she chose to cultivate near the still spring. The Goei Batsao floating in the still spring slipped into the water, sneakily swam to the other side, and then jumped onto the shore. This fellow had never been discovered, so it was getting bolder and bolder. After it jumped onto the shore, it placed a leaf on its waist and pointed a leaf at Yun Chujio while cursing silently. "You black-hearted brat. You deliberately isolated Xiao Mogu and me. As expected, you are the most vicious woman. You heartless ingrate. Luckily I saved you so many times. You don't even know how to let me out for a walk." Yun Chujio, who was cultivating, seemed to have sensed something. She suddenly opened her eyes and looked in the direction of Goei Batsao. Goei Batsao was almost scared to death. Fortunately, there were many flowers and plants growing on the ground where it was. Yun Chujio saw that there was nothing unusual, so she closed her eyes again to cultivate. Goei Batsao kept touching its flower spikes with its leaves. Touching its fur did not scare it. It was scared to death. It seemed that she had to be more careful in the future. This stupid girl was too smart. Yun Chujio had no idea that Goei Batsao had performed a great show. She cultivated for a while, but she couldn't calm down because she kept thinking about the person behind the scenes who imprisoned her parents. In the end, she simply gave up on cultivating and turned around to enter the wooden house. Goei Batsao saw that Yun Chujio had entered the wooden house, so it sneakily jumped out from the bushes and jumped into the still spring again to show off. The next morning, Yun Chujio woke up early and saw Master Liaowu. At this time, Yun Chujio had already recovered her original appearance. When she saw Master Liaowu, she smiled and said, "Master, this disciple greets you." Master Liaowu's feelings were a little complicated. There was awkwardness, helplessness, and a little disappointment. If only he had a disciple like Lone. Not only was he proficient in Buddhism, but he was also extremely intelligent. Unfortunately, he was a fake disciple that did not exist. He waved his hand. "Since you have already recovered your appearance, there is no need to mention the matter of master and disciple." Yun Chujio's expression became serious. "Once a master, always a father. Regardless of whether master recognizes me as a disciple or not, you are still my master." Master Liaowu really did not expect Yun Chujio to say such words. For some reason his eyes were a little moist. Although this little girl was a little mischievous, her nature was very kind. However, he was a monk. There was no reason for him to accept a little girl as his disciple. Master Liaowu thought of this and did not continue Yun Chujio's words. Instead, he changed the topic. "You came to find me because you want to ask about your parents, right?" Yun Chujio nodded. It did not matter whether he recognized her as his disciple or not. Yes, she would be fine as long as she recognized him. Master Liaowu pointed to the seat next to him and said, "It's a long story. Please sit down. I will explain it to you in detail." "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Yun Chujio didn't stand on ceremony and sat on the seat next to him. She looked at Master Liaowu with eager eyes. Master Liaowu let out a long sigh. "This story has to start with your Yun family. I'm sure you also know that there is a branch of the Yun family's ancestral mausoleum that guards the mausoleum, right?" "Yes, I have always felt that something was wrong with them. Could it be that this matter really has something to do with them?" Yun Chujio asked curiously. Chapter 52-29 The Spirit Guardian of the Yun Family's Ancestral Tomb. Master Liaowu nodded. "That's right. They aren't really a branch of the Yun family, but a secular force of the 10,000 Buddha's Sacred Hall." Yun Chujio was confused. The 10,000 Buddha's Sacred Hall? A secular force? Where did that come from? Seeing her blank expression, Master Liaowu explained, "There are 3,000 continents, big and small, and each continent has a different level. The Divine Enlightenment continent where the 10,000 Buddha's Sacred Hall is located is the highest level continent that I know of. As far as I know, the Divine Devil Temple that you have always been afraid of is also based in the Divine Enlightenment continent." Yun Chujio was not surprised that there was a higher level continent on the Heavy Cloud continent, because she had guessed that the headquarters of the Divine Devil Temple was not on the Heavy Cloud continent. However, why did the so-called 10,000 Buddhist temple sacrifice a part of their people to disguise as a branch of their Yun family? Moreover, they were in charge of guarding the mausoleum? Master Liaowu continued, "You should also know that 10,000 years ago, the human race and the demon race once engaged in a great war. At that time, the human race was able to win, and the 10,000 Buddhist Sacred Hall played a decisive role. However, although the demon race was defeated, they were not exterminated. Instead, they retreated back to the continent they were on. Before they retreated, they left behind quite a number of remnants. These remnants lurked in various continents, waiting for an opportunity to attack again. Master Liaowu took a sip of tea and continued. Although those remnants of the demon race can bring some trouble, the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall did not take them to heart. What they were truly afraid of was the higher-ups of the demon race at that time. Those higher-ups died on the spot during the Great Battle, but the demon race, in a sense, is undying and indestructible. After 10,000 years of recuperation, they once again entered the cycle of reincarnation. Yun Chujio nodded. She had encountered some demons before, and they were indeed the same as what Master Liaowu had said. Those demons were quite conceited because they were immortal. Death was only temporary. As long as the negative emotions of humans existed, they would form again, but it would take a very long time. Master Liaowu paused again as if he was in a difficult position about what he was going to say next. He took another sip of tea and then said, Master Liaowu, I have something to tell you. 10,000 years ago, an eminent monk of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall once predicted that a key figure of the demon race would be born in the Yun family. In order to identify him, the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall set up an array formation in the Yun family's ancestral mausoleum. Once that person appeared, the array formation would sense him. Yun Fengjin caused the abnormal changes in the ancestral mausoleum, which was why he was sent to the Zen sect by the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Originally, Yun Fengjin was the only one who was sent to the Zen sect. However, unexpectedly, the floating cloud mountain that Yilan was imprisoned near the Yun family's ancestral mausoleum also caused the changes in the ancestral mausoleum, therefore he was also sent to the Zen sect by the people of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Yun Chujie's heart shook. Caused the changes in the ancestral mausoleum? She seemed to have encountered the abnormal changes as well. However, due to the black bead's reminder, she left the ancestral mausoleum in time. She still remembered the probing gaze of Yun Fengde, the guardian of the ancestral mausoleum. She guessed that he was suspicious of her, but she couldn't confirm it yet. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. However, she still had one more question, so she asked, Master, I don't understand one thing. My father should have gone to the ancestral mausoleum to pay his respects before, so why hasn't there been any abnormality before? Master Liaowu didn't correct her address. He shook his head and said, I don't know the specific details. Master, since my parents are demons, why didn't the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace kill them directly? Why didn't they escort them to the divine enlightenment continent? Why did they imprison them in the Zen sect instead? Yun Chujio asked in confusion. Chapter 5230 was all a ploy. I don't quite understand either, but my guess is that although your parents are suspected of being demons, they haven't transformed into demons yet. If the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace kills them, they should be afraid of the consequences. On the other hand, your parents' spiritual power level was too low, and the spiritual energy on the divine enlightenment continent where the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace is located is extremely dense. If your parents were taken to the divine enlightenment continent, they would probably explode and die, Master Liaowu said with uncertainty. Hearing this, Yun Chujio sneered in her heart. The people of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace were really hypocritical. They had imprisoned her parents just because of a so-called suspicion. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Perhaps the spiritual energy on the divine enlightenment continent was one thing, but more importantly, they wanted to transfer the karma to the people of the Zen sect. In this way, even if her parents made a mistake or were caught by mistake, the karma would only fall on the people of the Zen sect, and it had nothing to do with the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Moreover, she felt that there were more than just the two reasons. There should be one more crucial reason. Once the demon race made a comeback in the future, her parents would be the best hostages. After all, their identities in their previous lives were very likely to be very prominent in the demon race. What benevolence, justice, and morality were actually all schemes. Seeing Yun's cold expression, Master Liaowu didn't know what to say for a moment. After all, he also knew that anyone would be dissatisfied if they were locked up just based on a groundless guess. Master Liaowu hesitated for a moment and then said, Benefactor Yun, you have rendered meritorious service to our Zen sect. I would like to advise you that a giant like the 10,000 Buddha sacred palace is not something you can provoke. Just pretend that you didn't hear anything. Don't worry. Although your parents are imprisoned, I have not mistreated them in any other way except for the lack of freedom. Although Yun Chujio wanted to rebuke Master Liaowu, she still endured it. The main culprit was the 10,000 Buddha sacred palace. It was useless for her to vent her anger on Master Liaowu. Moreover, she had no way to save her parents for the time being. She still had to rely on this old monk to take care of her parents. She could not fall out with him. Hence Yun Chujio nodded. Master, don't worry. I will not act rashly. Master Liaowu was skeptical of her words. However, after thinking about it, even if she wanted to do something, she did not have the ability. Therefore she said, "It's good that you've thought it through. You've made a great contribution this time. They'll bring you to see your parents later." "Thank you, Master. However, there's something I don't understand. Listening to your words, since the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall asked the Zen sect to help imprison my parents, they should be protecting the Zen sect. Then why are you still afraid of the bitter Zen sect?" Master Liaowu smiled bitterly and said, "Whether it's the Zen sect or the bitter Zen sect, they're all ants to the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. No matter which side wins, they have to listen to the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, so they won't interfere." Yun Chujia's heart was in a mess, so she didn't ask any more questions. She just followed Master Liaowu and the others to the forbidden area and saw Yun Fengjin and his wife again. However, she could see them but they couldn't see her. Yun Chujio knelt on the ground and kowtowed, swearing in her heart, "Father, Mother, little Jio will definitely save you, definitely." Although she knew that whether it was a behemoth like the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall or the remnants of the demon race that would attract tens of thousands of people to crusade against them, it was still an insurmountable gap for her. However, she believed that as long as she worked hard and persevered, there would eventually be a day when the clouds would rise to the sun. Chapter 52:31. I never lie. Master Liaowu and the others looked at Yun Chujio and shook their heads and sighed. Although they couldn't bear it, since Yun Fengjin and his wife were likely to be reincarnated from the demon race, they couldn't be soft-hearted. Moreover, they couldn't afford to offend the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace. Yun Chujio felt that there was no need for her to stay in the Zen sect any longer. Her top priority was to increase her strength as soon as possible. At least when she returned to the Lan family, she still had Mount Meru to absorb the lightning. Therefore she immediately bade farewell. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." However, she did not forget her original intention of coming here. She begged Master Liaowu to help the Lan family at a critical time. Master Liaowu readily agreed to this request. Whether it was public or private, helping the Lan family was beneficial to the Zen sect. Master Liaowu hesitated for a moment before asking, "Almsgiver Yun, how is the recovery of the Buddha's candle? The breaking dawn bell and the Shiwan wooden fish?" Yun Chujio sighed. "The condition of the Buddha's candle was originally better, but it helped me kill Yuan Guang previously. I don't know if it's because it was stained with blood, but it went a little crazy again. They'll bring it back and slowly put things right. After it returns to normal, he'll let it nourish the daybreak bell and the sunset wooden fish." "Master, don't worry. I never lie. If I nourish the daybreak bell and the sunset wooden fish, he'll definitely bring them to you." Master Liaowu and the others looked at each other, indicating that they didn't believe him. They now understood that this troublemaker was an iron rooster. The things in her hands wouldn't be spat out at all. Master Liaowu thought, "Forget it. I can't force anything. Let nature take its course." Moreover, if the bitter Zen sect and the Zen sect fought, he might have to ask this fake disciple for help. Therefore he nodded. "All right, but I need to remind you that the bitter Zen sect was a branch of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, so the 5 treasures were also brought down from the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall by the patriarch at that time. If you meet someone from the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, don't reveal it, or you might attract unnecessary trouble." Yun Chujio nodded. "Yes, your disciple knows." Seeing that Yun Chujio was a little perfunctory in agreeing, Master Liaowu wanted to give her some advice. These 5 treasures were extremely precious even to the people of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Back then, it was by chance that they were brought to the Chongshan continent by the patriarch of the bitter Zen sect. However, on second thought, the people of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall would not come to the Chongshan continent unless it was absolutely necessary. This little girl should not be able to meet them, so she did not say anything more. After bidding farewell to Master Liaowu, Yun Chujio left on the Zen sect's flying spirit tool. In order to be safe, Master Lei brought Ji Kong and the others to escort her away. Master Lei saw that Yun Chujio's mood was a little depressed and explained, "Almsgiver Yun, fate comes and goes, fate gathers and disperses, fate rises and falls, fate falls and perishes. All of these are fated. Fate comes and fate is fated, fate goes and people take it from themselves. The seed is the cause, the harvest is the fruit, everything is created by the heart. Don't force everything, everything has a destiny." Yun Chujio raised her head and slowly and firmly said, "Master Lei, I have never believed in the so-called destiny. My fate is in my hands and not in the sky. Whether it is the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall or the divine devil hall, there will be a day when I will trample them under my feet." Master Lei originally wanted to persuade Yun Chujio not to be so stubborn because he had overestimated himself. However, when he saw the determination in Yun Chujio's eyes, he could not say it out loud. At this moment, Jisoo, who was at the side, whispered, "Benefactor Yun, I believe in you." Chapter 52:32 Jesus wishes. Master Lei glared at Jisoo and then said to Yun Chujio, "Since you have your own plans, I won't say any more. In short, be careful and don't be rash." Yun Chujio nodded. "Thank you for the reminder, Master. I'll remember it." Jisoo found an opportunity and entered Yun Chujio's cabin. He scratched his head and said, "Benefactor Yun, what I said before is true. I believe that you can do it. You can definitely save your parents." Previously, Jisoo did not know about Yun Chujio's parents. However, Master Lei was afraid that he and Ji Kong would be tricked by Yun Chujio, so he briefly told them about the matter. Yun Chujio smiled lightly and said, "Why do you believe me?" Jisoo said matter-of-factly, "You took away the Buddha's candle without much effort and even turned the jade glass Bodhi tree into a baldi. You pretended to be a monk and became a lonely little Buddha. You even won the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly by yourself. Therefore, I believe that you can do whatever you want." Yun Chujio looked at Jesus' serious face and said with a smile, "Senior brother Jisoo, do you have any wishes?" Jisoo rubbed his chin and laughed. "I don't have any lofty aspirations. I just want to cultivate well." Yun Chujio pouted. "Senior brother Jisoo, don't you know that you always rub your chin every time you lie?" Jisoo choked and laughed dryly. "My original wish was really to cultivate well and follow my master's life step by step. However, ever since I participated in the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly and heard about your parents, I have a wish. Forget it, it's impossible to achieve. I won't say any more." Yun Chujio didn't say anything. She just looked at him with a smile which made Jesus' hair stand on end. He gritted his teeth and said, "Forget it. Just say it. If you want to laugh at me, then laugh at me. My wish is to enter the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. It would be best if I could become the leader of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall." "Why?" Yun Chujio's expression didn't change as she asked. "Humph. You've seen it yourself. Whether it's the bitter Zen sect or the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, they don't look like monks at all. Whatever compassion they have, they will feed it to the dogs. If I become the sect master of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, I will correct this evil trend and let those who practice Buddhism return to their original hearts." Jisoo was a little embarrassed at first, but later his expression became serious. What he said was the truth. He originally thought that those who practiced Buddhism were the same as him, and they were all kind people who wholeheartedly believed in Buddhism. However, the successive events made him a little disappointed. It was all for the sake of benefits and he had completely forgotten about the Buddha's heart. After hearing Jesus' words, Yun Chujio really looked at him in a new light. Jisoo saw that Yun Chujio did not speak, and his face became even more embarrassed. "I know. You're laughing at me for overestimating myself. After all, I don't even have the qualifications to enter the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Senior brother Jisoo, as long as you stick to your original intention of helping all living things, you'll definitely become an eminent monk. Your wish will also be fulfilled," Yun Chujio said very seriously. Yun Chujio thought to herself, since Jisoo trusted her so much, she would definitely help him fulfill his wish. Jisoo scratched his head, feeling a little embarrassed. He said, "Let's not talk about this anymore. What are you going to do next?" Yun Chujio knew that he was deliberately changing the topic, so she did not expose him. "Of course I'm going to find a way to increase my strength. I'm too weak now. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Chapter 52:33. Let's get married. Jisoo couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed when he heard Yun Chujio's words. In fact, Yun Chujio was now at the 8th level of the extreme spiritual realm, and her cultivation level was the same as his 8th level Black Lotus. It seemed that he had to hurry up and cultivate after he went back. The two of them chatted for a while more and Jisoo took his leave. As soon as Jisoo left, Buddha's candle said smugly, "I have a way to make that little monk increase his cultivation level quickly, but he has to suffer a little." "What way?" Yun Chujio asked curiously. "Let him eat a drop of my wax oil and he can undergo purification. In the future, the speed of his cultivation of Buddhist power will be much faster. However, the process of purification is extremely painful. It's almost like being dismembered," Buddha's candle said loudly. Yun Chujio thought for a moment, then called Ji Kong and Jisoo into the cabin and told them what Buddha's candle said. Whether they were willing to try or not depended on themselves. Yun Chujia's personality was like this. If others treated her well, she would repay them greatly. Both Ji Kong and Ji Su treated her well. However, Ji Kong's personality was more reserved than Ji's. Therefore, as time passed, Ji Su became closer to her. Ji Kong and Ji Su did not hesitate at all. They were both willing to try. What a joke. Only a fool would reject such a good opportunity. It did not matter if it hurt a little. Cultivation was full of hardships to begin with. Yun Chujio immediately asked Buddha's candle to get 2 drops of wax oil. Buddha's candle said painfully, "These are the essence of my cultivation. You 2 brats are lucky." Ji Kong and Ji Su did not dare to say anything. They put away the wax oil and prepared to take it after they returned to the Zen sect. After they left, Buddha's candle started to claim credit. "Little girl, if I didn't take the initiative to tell you, you wouldn't know about the wax oil at all. I have poured my heart and soul into you. Are you touched? Do you feel honored?" Yun Chujio chuckled. "Are you really doing this for my own good? Not for the psyche stone?" Buddha's candle choked. Damn it, this little girl was too smart. Nothing could be hidden from her. Buddha's candle indeed had designs on the psychic stone, but it also knew that if it asked for it directly, this iron rooster might not give it to it, so it took the initiative to bring up the matter of the wax oil. Anyway, this wax oil was the impurities from its cultivation, so it was useless to keep it. Of course, even if it was beaten to death, it would not tell Yun Chujio the truth. Yun Chujio did not continue to talk nonsense with Buddha's candle and directly threw it, a psychokinesis stone. Buddha's candle, could you be any more stingy? Forget it, it was better to have it than not to have it. Otherwise, if she was angered, there would be nothing left. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Chujio was in a daze for a while. She took out the voice transmission talisman and wanted to tell Di Biming about the recent events. Although she was not sure if she could successfully send it, she still wanted to tell him because her heart was very stifled. Although she never belittled herself, she knew that both the Divine Devil Hall and the 10,000 Buddha Sacred Hall were too huge. Compared to them, she was as small as a grain of sand. However, before she could send the message, the voice transmission talisman started to vibrate. Yun Chujio thought to herself, she and the pretty boy really have a telepathic connection. She sent her divine sense in, and Di Biming's cold voice came from inside, "Little Jio, let's get married." Yun Chujio was stunned. Why did he suddenly bring up the matter of getting married? Didn't they say that they would wait until the matter of the Divine Devil Hall was settled before getting married? Chapter 52-34 Marriage. Then Yun Chujio really could not understand why Di Biming would suddenly mention marriage. Could it be because she had said that she had become a monk, so she was agitated? That did not make sense. She had already told him the truth. Logically speaking, he would not think otherwise. Could it be that something was going to happen again? She was at a loss and asked, "Have you recovered your memory?" "Yes." A certain lord's answer was as short as ever. "Didn't you say that you would wait for the God-Fiend Temple's matters to be settled before getting married? Why have you changed your mind?" Yun Chujio really could not understand what was going on, so she asked directly. "It's nothing. I just want to get married as soon as possible to avoid any unforeseen circumstances." Di Biming's tone was unperturbed, but Yun Chujio could hear a hint of anxiety in it. She frowned slightly. The gigolo must be hiding something from her. However, she did not plan to marry someone else, so let's get married. In case the gigolo was seduced by some flirtatious slut. Hence she replied, "All right, let's get married then. I'll wait for you in the Imperial City." "Okay." Yun Chujio pouted. "What at Sundara?" Yun Chujio kept the voice transmission talisman and pondered for a while, but she could not think of a reason for Di Biming to suddenly get married, so she decided not to think about it. Previously, the 2 of them were supposed to get married in the demon region, but they were interrupted when they were about to greet each other. She hoped that nothing bad would happen this time. The journey was very smooth. The flying spiritual device landed outside the Imperial City. Yun Chujio invited a Master Lei to the Lan family's ancestral residence for a visit, but Master Lei declined politely, saying that he had something to do. Yun Chujio did not force him. After exchanging a few pleasantries, she watched as the Zen sect flying spiritual device left. Yun Chujio did not go back to the 3rd branch of the Lan family first. Instead, she went to the ancestral home to see her ancestor. However, she never expected that she would meet Lan Luochen the moment she entered the ancestral home. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. Didn't that old fox promise her not to let this blue dregs come back? Why did he come back now? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Lan Luchen's eyes lit up. Little Jio, well, big cousin, I'm in a hurry to go to the toilet. See you later. Hei Shinjio ran away as soon as she said that. She didn't want to talk to this piece of trash, lest his mental illness got worse. Lan Luochen watched Yun Chujio leave quickly, and his eyes became gloomy. A faint blue light flickered in his black eyes. He tightened his hands under his sleeves, and then turned around to leave the ancestral house. Little Jio, there will be plenty of time in the future. One day you will stop for me. Yun Chujio ran to the study room of the Lan family's patriarch in one breath. Seeing that Lan Luochen did not catch up with her, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. The guy calmed himself down and shouted, "Patriarch, I'm back. Come in." Hei Shinjio hurried into the study room and bowed politely. "Patriarch, long time no see. You look better and better." The ancestor smiled and ignored the flattery. "How was your trip to the Zen sect?" Yun Chujio nodded. "It was smooth. Very smooth. Master Liaowu promised me that the Zen sect would help us as long as the Lan family called for help. Besides, didn't the bitter Zen sect come out? The Zen sect also wants to make the Lan family an ally, so don't worry. The Zen sect will definitely be on our side." The old ancestor of the Lan family had long expected this, so he was not surprised. He asked a few more questions and then asked, "Do you know anything about the new lonely Buddha of the Zen sect?" Chapter 5235. I'm not familiar with Lone. Yun Chujio heard her ancestor's question and shook her head. "Ancestor, I'm not familiar with Lone." The ancestor thought about it and realized that Lone had been worshipping Buddha in the 10,000 Buddhas cave. It was normal for this troublemaker to not be familiar with him. He sighed, "I do think highly of Lone. He's calm and intelligent, but his cultivation level is a little low." At this point, the old ancestor suddenly thought of something and asked, "Why does that Lone know how to play the jade glass Bodhi leaf?" Yun Chujio said calmly, "Didn't I tell Master Liaowu about the secret skill of the Fanyin kill? I think that Lone figured it out himself." The old ancestor frowned. The thing that she gave to Master Liaowu was really the secret skill of the Fanyin kill? The old ancestor couldn't help but have a trace of doubt in his heart. Could that Lone be the troublemaker in front of him? But on second thought he felt that his idea was a bit absurd. After all, that Lone was a man and he still had Buddha power on him. It was absolutely impossible for him to be the troublemaker in disguise. Yun Chujio saw the old ancestor scrutinizing her and found it funny in her heart. No matter how cunning this old fox was, he would never guess that she was the little lone Buddha. Therefore, this fellow had a magnanimous face and did not have the slightest bit of guilt. Seeing this, the old ancestor put down the trace of doubt in his heart. Yun Chujio thought of Lan Luochen whom she had just met and pouted, "Old ancestor, didn't you say that within a year Lan Dacha and Lan Luchen's eldest cousin would not appear in the Lan family? Why did I meet him at the door? I have something to arrange for him to do when I summon him back. Don't worry, he won't be back for a while. Moreover, from a selfish point of view, I want to agree to his marriage to you," the ancestor said. Yun Chujio immediately heaved a sigh of relief when she heard that. As for why the ancestor didn't agree to Lan Luchen's marriage to her, it wasn't within her consideration. She was about to marry a gigolo. Lan Dacha would marry whoever he wanted to marry. It had nothing to do with her. However, she did not plan to tell her ancestor that Di Biming was going to marry her, in case there were any complications. The guy remembered the 500 people that her ancestor promised her. He immediately said with a smile, "Ancestor, I've successfully completed the mission. The 500 people that you promised me?" Ancestor smiled and said, "I'll keep my words. I'll ask Elder Tua to accompany you to order some people later." Hei Xinjia's smile became even brighter when she heard that. She finally had someone under her command. If she fought with others in the future, she could gang up on them. Unfortunately, Lan Luoyen and the others were afraid. Otherwise she could beat them up for fun. Ancestor saw that Yun Chujia's thoughts had flown away and waved his hand. "All right, you can go and find Elder Tua now." Hei Shinjio immediately looked for old Tua as though she was flying. Old Tua brought her out of the imperial city and arrived at a camp. The Lan family had tens of thousands of guards, so they could only camp outside the city for training. However, there was a formation set up outside the camp, so outsiders could not see or enter. After Yun Chujio entered the camp, she had a deeper understanding of the Lan family's power. The four great aristocratic families were indeed not to be underestimated. Even though the Lan family's power could no longer be compared to its peak, a 100-legged bug that was still alive was not something ordinary powers could compare to. Elder Tua brought Yun Chujio to meet the chief of the Lan family's guards, Zhu Chen. He took out the Lan family's ancestor's token and explained his purpose of coming. Although Elder Tua's status was not to be underestimated, in the Lan family's main camp, no one's words were effective. They only recognized the Lan family's ancestors' token. Yun Chujio was very satisfied with this. It seemed that the old fox was very good at managing his subordinates. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5236 Sympathy. Zhu Qin usually trained these guards in the camp, so he knew very little about Yun Chujio. However, he knew that Yun Chujio was the cousin of the Lan family's third chamber, and she came from a lower continent. Therefore, when he heard that the Lan family's ancestor wanted to allocate 500 people to her, he was a little unhappy. These guards of the Lan family could be said to be his blood and sweat, and they were also the lifeline of the Lan family. The ancestor actually wanted to allocate 500 people to this little girl? Wasn't this a little too childish? Previously he had given Lan Luochen 500 people. That was still understandable. After all, Lan Luochen was very likely to be the next family head. What right did this Yun Chujio have to receive the same treatment? Although her cultivation seemed to be pretty good, so what? Didn't she still have to get married in the end? When the time came, wouldn't these 500 guards be used as wedding clothes for others? Zhu Qin was unhappy, but his expression naturally showed a little bit of displeasure. He said, I will naturally follow the old ancestors' orders. It's just that, young miss, some of the guards might be willing to leave the camp with you. Why don't we adopt the principle of voluntariness? Yun Chujio was so smart. One look at Zhu Qin's reaction and one could tell that he did not think highly of her. He was deliberately making things difficult for her. If no one was willing to leave with her later, the situation would definitely be very awkward. Elder Tua frowned and was about to say something when Yun Chujio said, How about this? Let's take a gamble. I will only take the guards who are willing to leave with me. If the number is less than 500, I will accept it. But if the number is more than 500, what will the leaders say? Zhu Qin found it funny in his heart. This Miss Cousin really overestimated herself. Since she took the initiative to say so, it was good. He could save a lot of people. It would be good enough if there were dozens of people who were willing to leave with her. Thus he said, Of course. Then do as young Miss says. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Elder Tua at the side gave Zhu Qin a sympathetic look. You're going to be unlucky. You're going to be unlucky. Zhu Qin saw Elder Tua's gaze and felt somewhat puzzled. He felt that he might have seen wrongly. Elder Tua's sympathy should be that the young miss did not sympathize with him. What was there for him to sympathize with? Zhu Qin immediately gathered all the guards to the teaching military field. After stepping onto the general platform, he said, This is the young cousin of the Lan family's third branch. The ancestor wants to allocate 500 people to her. Which one of you is willing to follow her? The entire place was silent. Not a single person moved. What kind of joke was this? The treatment in this camp was quite good. Who would be foolish enough to follow a young cousin who appeared out of nowhere? Furthermore, following a little girl was so embarrassing. Seeing this, Zhu Qin's eyes revealed a sense of pride. Just look, he had already said that no one was willing to follow this little girl. This little girl still wanted to bet with him? She would probably cry and run away in a while. At this moment, Yun Chujio laughed lightly. Leader Zhu, can I say a few words? Zhu Qin nodded, Of course. Yun Chujio looked at the people below and said, I heard that the guards of the Lan family are invincible in every battle. Furthermore, they rule the army strictly. They can be said to be a mighty army. Zhu Qin and the guards below could not help but look pleased when they heard Yun Chujio's words. This young lady knew her place. However, they did not expect Yun Chujio to change the topic. However, in my opinion, she is just average. The moment Yun Chujio's words left her mouth, the people below immediately went into an uproar. Even Zhu Qin's expression did not look good. A little girl actually said such arrogant words. She was really arrogant. Yun Chujio did not continue speaking. She just stood quietly in the distance. Pandas novel. Calm, just a sentence of contempt made you so excited? You guys are a little too impetuous. The guards were naturally not convinced. This wild girl who appeared out of nowhere was simply twisting logic. Unless she had a brain, she would only follow her. I know. You guys don't think highly of me and feel that following me has no future. This is not your fault. After all, the little sparrow knows the ambition of a swan. The crowd below the stage became even more stifled when they heard that. Was this smelly girl here to anger them on purpose? She was a swan and they were the little sparrow? Her words were too sarcastic. Elder Tua frowned slightly. What was this little girl up to? If she belittled these guards so much, wouldn't they be even more unwilling to follow her? Yun Chujio laughed lightly and said, "You guys are very unconvinced, aren't you? You think you're very powerful, don't you? Come, which one of you will come up and compete with me? If I lose, I don't want a single person. Get lost immediately." If Yun Chujio hadn't said those nasty words before, there might not have been anyone who would have come up to accept the challenge. After all, Yun Chujio was still the Lan family's young miss, but she had already provoked the anger of the crowd. The crowd naturally wouldn't care about these things. Immediately, a person dressed in the captain's uniform jumped onto the general stage. "This General Leng Yun, please enlighten me." Zhu Qin said with a fake smile. "Miss, Leng Yun is at the second level of the Spirit Extinguisher realm. I think it's better to forget about this competition. Otherwise it would be bad if I hurt you." Yun Chujio glanced at him and said indifferently, "He is only at the second level of the Spirit Extinguisher realm. The one who should be worried about getting hurt is him and not me. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." When Yun Chujio said this, everyone felt that this miss was most likely not very smart. She was only at the 8th level of the extreme spiritual realm, while Leng Yun was at the 2nd level of the Spirit Extinguisher realm. The difference was not just a little bit, yet she still dared to talk nonsense? Zhu Chen's tone was slightly cold. "Leng Yun, since the young miss wants to spar with you, then you might as well obey respectfully. However, you have to know your limits when attacking. Don't hurt the young miss." Leng Yun's face revealed arrogance. "I've received the order. Young miss, please." Yun Chujio knew that these guards were people who rolled on the edge of a knife. She had to use her strength to make them completely convinced, so she did not plan to use some harmful moves such as chili noodles, talismans and the like. This time she wanted to use her own strength to speak. Therefore, as soon as Leng Yun's voice fell, Yun Chujio immediately rushed forward. The sharp palm wind went straight for Leng Yun's face. Leng Yun never thought that Yun Chujio's movement technique would be so fast. Although he dodged it, he was somewhat embarrassed. His expression immediately became a little ugly. He withdrew some of his contempt and started to fight with Yun Chujio. As Yun Chujio did not release her spiritual beast, Leng Yun did not release it either. Otherwise it would appear that he was afraid of her. However, Yun Chujio's ghostly movement technique forced Leng Yun to only be able to parry without being able to retaliate. Leng Yun was anxious and puzzled. Yun Chujio's cultivation was clearly 3 levels lower than his, and she had even crossed a large level. Why was her movement technique faster than his? Zhu Qin, who was watching the battle from the side, frowned. He had the same doubts in his heart. How could Yun Chujio's movement be so fast? They did not know that Yun Chujio was often hunted down. In order to save her life, she would naturally put her life on the line to practice her movement. Leng Yun was becoming more and more passive. He knew that if this continued, he might lose this competition without realizing it. If that happened, it would really be a disgrace. Therefore he did not care about anything else. After jumping to the side, he released his own spiritual beast, a huge spiritual tiger. The huge fiery red tiger looked exceptionally mighty. It immediately pounced on Yun Chujio with bared fangs and brandished claws. The strange grass in Yun Chujio's dantian was practically blooming with joy. It was the guaichao. The opportunity for its Gowei Batsao to make a name for itself had arrived. As the saying goes, the opportunity was left for the grass that was prepared. It was already prepared. Unfortunately, this fellow had repeatedly injured Hei Xinjiu by mistake. Hei Xinjiu also felt that this competition was very important, so she did not intend to let it out. After Yun Chujio dodged the attacks of Leng Yun and the huge tiger, she shot out several small spiritual needles. Although Leng Yun did not take Yun Chujio's small spiritual needles seriously, he did not rashly take them. Instead, he dodged them sideways. However, the huge spiritual tiger arrogantly used its claws to catch several small spiritual needles. It even used its mouth to catch a few and looked at Yun Chujio proudly. Yun Chujio smiled coldly. With a flash of her spiritual sense, those small purple needles exploded. The figure of the spirit power tiger immediately dimmed. Its limited spiritual intelligence could not understand why those small needles exploded. Leng Yun was also shocked. He thought, fortunately, he did not use his hand to catch those small needles. This Yun Chujio was quite capable. Just as he was thinking, Yun Chujio raised her hand and several purple lightning bolts struck at him. Leng Yun was shocked again. This Yun Chujio actually had a heavenly thunder spiritual root? I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. However, after the initial panic he calmed down. Although Yun Chujio's lightning bolts were more powerful than ordinary spiritual attacks, he still had a spiritual beast. Yun Chujio was no match for him. As he was thinking, he saw in disbelief that Yun Chujio actually summoned 8 flying swords. No, to be precise, it was 9 because she was holding an immortal sword in her hand. Pandas novel. Kamling Yun hurriedly dodged to the side, but he saw that the spiritual tiger had actually dissipated under the attack of the flying swords. Of course, the main reason was that the huge spiritual tiger had been injured by the small needle of spiritual power. Otherwise, it would not have dissipated so easily. Leng Yun had no choice but to release the huge spiritual tiger again and fight with Yun Chujio again. The two of them were evenly matched, but Leng Yun knew that if they continued to delay, the one who would lose would probably be him. Because the huge spiritual tiger constantly consumed his spiritual power, he would definitely lose the competition because of the exhaustion of his spiritual power over time. He gritted his teeth and released his auxiliary spiritual beast. Leng Yun's auxiliary spiritual beast was a giant spiritual wolf. Although it was not as powerful as the giant spiritual tiger, it was still a big deal. With the addition of the giant spiritual wolf, Leng Yun gradually gained the upper hand. Yun Chujio began to struggle. If she could use a bad move, she would not be afraid. She could just let Xiao Hanyo curse her directly. But the problem was she wanted to use her strength to intimidate the people below. What should she do? The Gowei Batsao in her dantian shook its leaves desperately. Have you forgotten your little cutie? Let me out quickly. Yun Chujio had no other choice now. She could only use her spiritual sense to say, "I'll give you another chance. If you work for me again, don't come out in the future." Guai Chao shook its leaves vigorously to express its agreement. Although it had made some mistakes in the past, it was not entirely due to it, okay? This time, it must make the stinky girl look at it in a new light. Yun Chujio decided to trust Guai Chao again, so she released the Gowei Batsao. The moment the huge purple Gowei Batsao appeared, both Leng Yun and the people below were shocked. Heavens, what the hell is this thing? Gowei Batsao. This thing can also be used as a spiritual beast? Can it have combat strength? Leng Yun's 2 spiritual beasts looked at Gowei Batsao with disdain. Can this thing compare to them? It's simply trash. Gowei Batsao felt the disdain of the 2 spiritual beasts. It didn't say a word. Of course, it also didn't know how to speak. It directly swung 2 leaves and sent the spiritual tiger and the spiritual wolf flying. This time, the whole place was dead silent. This was too powerful, right? Although the spiritual tiger and the spiritual wolf were distracted just now, so they were easily sent flying, but this also showed that Gowei Batsao was not ordinary strong. Gowei Batsao felt everyone's surprise and felt that it was awesome. If it hadn't given the pretty boy 2 drops of juice, and if it wasn't still a baby, these dregs wouldn't have been scared to death. Just as this guy was feeling proud, he heard Yun Chujio use her spiritual sense to say, "Stop showing off, quickly get that Leng Yun off the stage." Hearing that, Gowei Batsao looked at Leng Yun, who was a little dazed with disdain, and then stretched out its leaf to hit Leng Yun. Leng Yun came back to his senses and hurriedly dodged. Fortunately, at this time, the huge spiritual tiger and the huge spiritual wolf that were sent flying also returned to the stage and blocked Gowei Batsao. Gowei Bakeo's little temper was on the rise. Pandas novel. The giant spiritual tiger and the giant spiritual wolf were sent flying again. This time, it was even more tragic as they were directly sent flying. Leng Yun gritted his teeth and prepared to release the giant spiritual tiger and the giant spiritual wolf again. However, Yun Chujio's flying sword had arrived. He had no choice but to stop the release and dodge the flying sword. However, just as he dodged the flying sword, the leaves of Gowei Batsao had already come at him. He had no choice but to dodge the attack of Gowei Batsao again. Leng Yun was forced into a sorry state. He did not even have the time to release the spiritual beast. In the end, he was pulled off the stage by the leaves of Gowei Batsao. Gowei Bakeo's heart was filled with joy. Complete victory. Who else? Who else? It said that once Gowei Batsao appeared, who else could compete with it? Yun Chujio really couldn't be bothered to watch it show off. Moreover, she was afraid that if she let this fellow stay on the stage for too long, it would cause some trouble, so she directly cut off the spiritual power supply. Gowei Batsao could actually hold on for a while, but in order to save up a small amount of money, it pretended that its spiritual power had disappeared. In fact, he continued to watch Yun Chujio's show. Leng Yun was not injured, but he was defeated. He said with a red face, "I lost." Yun Chujio did not say anything unpleasant but said, "Thank you for letting me win. Everyone, I'm sure you have seen my strength, so I won't say anything more. The old ancestor has already given me the right to compete for the position of young master. Moreover, in the previous divine relic trial, it was my credit that the 4 families were able to escape unscathed. In addition, I can promise you that as long as you become my subordinates, your salary will be doubled. The medicinal pills will be doubled. Of course, Yun Chujio will not accept useless people. If you don't have enough confidence to become a powerhouse, then there's no need for you to follow me. Now, if anyone wants to follow me, step out. When everyone heard Yun Chujio's words, they could not help but stir up a commotion. Originally, they did not have any interest in this cousin lady. Although her cultivation seemed to be alright, her combat strength was definitely not as good as the guards who lived on the edge of knives all year round. However, they did not expect that this cousin lady was not only not weak in combat strength, she could even be called valiant. She was actually able to cross 3 levels and defeat Leng Yun. This was simply inconceivable. One had to know that not only were they 3 levels apart, but they had also crossed a large level. The strong were the most respected among cultivators. After they had witnessed Yun Chujio's combat strength, their previous prejudice had also dissipated. In addition, when they heard about the attractive conditions of double salary and double pills, many people were tempted. However, they were more or less hesitant. After all, this was a major decision. At this moment, Leng Yun was the first to stand out. I am willing to follow Miss Cousin. Leng Yun was very practical. He had just lost to Yun Chujio. If he stayed in the main camp, he would be laughed at in the future. However, if he became Yun Chujio's subordinate, this problem would not exist. After all, Yun Chujio was the master. Moreover, he had been dragged off the stage by that Goei Batsao just now. If he followed Yun Chujio, he would be able to see what the Goei Batsao was capable of. The moment Leng Yun stepped out, the team that he had originally led all stepped out. Pandas novel. Those who were initially hesitant saw that Leng Yun's team had stepped forward, and they did not hesitate any longer and stepped forward as well. Everyone had the mentality of following the crowd. Seeing that more and more people were stepping forward, some who were wavering also stepped forward. Zhu Chen saw that more and more people were stepping forward, and his expression changed drastically. If he did not stop them, half of the people would probably be taken away by this young miss. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Calm, all right. That's it. Under Zhu Chen's command, everyone stopped stepping out. Some of the people who were initially hesitant couldn't help but feel annoyed. If they had known earlier, they would have stepped out earlier. What a pity. Humans were like this. In fact, they might not like certain things or things so much. However, once they couldn't get what they wanted, they would magnify this kind of desire infinitely. Zhu Chen took a rough look and saw that there were 2,000 to 3,000 people who had come out. This was far more than the 500 people he had mentioned before. He squeezed out a smile and said, Miss Cousin, you can choose 500 people from them. Yun Chujio looked at him with a smile that was not a smile. 500 people. I have made a bet with you before. As long as they are willing to come with me, you won't stop them. Why do you want to go back on your word now? Don't the leaders know that there are no jokes in the military? Don't they know that military orders are like a mountain? Or is your leader simply a person who doesn't keep his word? Zhu Chen finally understood why Elder Tua had looked at him sympathetically before. It turned out that this cousin lady looked like a little sheep, but in fact she was a wolf in sheep's clothing. And she was the kind of wolf that would eat people without spitting out their bones. He could only look at Elder Tua for help. If he really let the young lady take these people away, he would have done his best. Elder Tua smiled and looked like he could not help her. Zhu Chen's heart sank. He knew that he could only ask Yun Chujio for help. When he thought of how he had belittled and neglected her before, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He was afraid that he would not be able to pass this test easily. Zhu Chen said shamelessly, Miss, I was blind before and neglected you. Please don't lower yourself to my level. I apologize to you. Zhu Chen's face flushed red. In this camp he could call the wind and summon the rain. It was the first time he had apologized. However, there was no other way. If he did not apologize, he would really let this young cousin take all of them away. The consequences were simply unimaginable. Yun Chujio saw that Zhu Chen was like this, so she did not continue to make things difficult. After all, Zhu Chen's status in the Lan family was extraordinary, so there was no need to go too far. Thus, she smiled faintly and said, Leader Zhu, what are you doing? I was just joking with you. We agreed on 500 people, so we'll naturally have 500 people. Zhu Chen, joking? Your joke can scare people to death, okay. However, when he heard that she had relented, his heart finally calmed down, and the smile on his face became more sincere. Thank you, Miss Cousin. I'll help you select 500 elites from these people. Yun Chujio said faintly, there's no need. Let's go with the first 500 people. When Yun Chuzhou said this, not only Zhu Chen was stunned but the people below were also stunned. The first 500 people who were listed? How was this to be identified? After all, no one had registered. Who knew which 500 people were listed at the beginning? Zhu Chen said awkwardly, Miss Biao, the incident just now happened suddenly. I did not ask anyone to register, so the first 500 people who were listed at the beginning could not be identified. Yun Chuzhou interrupted him and said calmly, It's okay. I know who is in the top 500. I can identify them. Zhu Chen, this Miss Cousin didn't lose her mind just because she won the bet, right? She could identify them? What did she mean? She remembered the first 500 people who were listed? I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Come, what a joke. He believed that she could remember the first 100 people who were listed. That was because the first 100 people were Leng Yun's team. However, the last 400 people were scattered among the teams. How could she remember the order? Yun Chuzhou did not pay attention to Zhu Chen. Instead, she said in a clear voice, The people I have selected will stand on the right side of the military field. Leng Yun, lead your team to go over first. Leng Yun immediately led his team to the empty space on the right side, thinking to himself, Is this young lady talking big or does she really have a photographic memory? At this moment he heard Yun Chuzhou continue, the first row on the right, 3, 5, 8, 15. The second row on the right, 17, 28, 35. The third row on the right, Panda's novel. The reason why everyone was so certain was that the person who was called was indeed the first to step out. After Yun Chuzhou had counted 500 people, she said, You only have one chance and it's fleeting. The next time I come to ask for someone, I hope you won't hesitate. Those who stepped out later were very regretful. If they had known this would happen, they would have stepped out earlier. But now, even if they wanted to go, their cousin's miss didn't want them anymore. The arrogance on Zhu Chen's face had now turned into suspicion. This cousin's miss actually had a photographic memory? No wonder the old ancestor would allocate 500 people to her and even gave her the right to compete for the position of young master. As expected, she couldn't be underestimated. Leaders, since I have already chosen the people, I won't disturb you anymore. Yun Chuzhou said with a light smile. Zhu Chen quickly said a few polite words. Compared to his previous arrogance and coldness, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. Yun Chuzhou found it funny in her heart, but she did not disregard his face and said a few polite words to him. Yun Chuzhou brought 500 people and left the Lan family camp. When they reached the imperial city, they went straight to a manor in the north of the city and settled everyone there. The corners of old Tua's eyes twitched. It seemed that this troublemaker had already arranged everything. Otherwise he would not have bought a suitable manor. Yun Chuzhou had led troops before. Not to mention 500 people, even 50,000 or 500,000 people would not be a problem. Therefore, after a few words of kindness and power, these 500 people were extremely well behaved. Of course, Yun Chuzhou knew that this was only on the surface. If she wanted to build them into the team that she wanted, it would still take some time. Yun Chuzhou chose 5 team leaders from among them and made Leng Yun the leader. Leng Yun did not expect that he would benefit from this disaster, so he was naturally grateful to Yun Chuzhou. After Yun Chuzhou had settled the matters here, she returned to the Lan family's third branch. After all this, it was already evening. Yun Chuzhou had just entered the third branch when Lan Luofang came up to her. Little Jiu, I've been waiting for you for a day. Where have you been? As Lan Luofang's branch had already been killed by the Lan family's ancestors, the Lan family's third branch now belonged to Lan Luofang's branch. Lan Luofang's days were much better than before, and her appearance was even more beautiful. Yun Chuzhou glanced at Lan Luofang's increasingly graceful figure. She cursed Guai Chao in her heart for dozens of times before saying, The ancestor has arranged for me to do something. He'll first pay my respects to uncle and grandfather, and then eat in your courtyard. Panda's novel. Yun Chuzhou smiled and went to Lan Dimeo's study. After experiencing the 10,000-year-old swamp incident, Lan Dimeo's attitude towards Yun Chuzhou was like a spring breeze. He asked a few questions with concern and told Yun Chuzhou to go back and rest earlier. Yun Chuzhou couldn't help but laugh. She hadn't forgotten how this old thing used to be. Now that he saw that she was useful, he acted like a kind elder. However, what exactly was going on with that jade token? She had to explore it when she had time. Yun Chuzhou thought as she arrived at Lan Luofang's courtyard. The two of them ate and chatted. Lan Luofang mentioned the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly and said excitedly, Little Jiu, it's such a pity that you didn't go to the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly. You don't know, that lonely little Buddha is simply too interesting. Especially that debate about which came first, the chicken or the egg. It was so funny that it almost made me laugh to death. By the way, didn't you go to the Zen sect before? Did you talk to that lonely little Buddha? No, I'm not familiar with him, Yun Chujio said with a smile. For some reason, Lan Luoyan looked at Yun Chujio's smile and felt that it was a bit strange, as if it was similar to the time when she was bad. Lan Luofeng could not help but shiver and quickly changed the topic. She said with some curiosity, "Little Jiu, didn't you say that your fiancé is 100 times stronger than Lan Luochen? When will you let me open my eyes?" When Yun Chujio heard Lan Luofeng mention Di Baiming, her heart inexplicably felt a little uneasy. The gigolo suddenly mentioned the matter of marriage. She did not know what had happened. When Lan Luofeng saw that Yun Chujio's expression was not too good, she asked with concern, "Little Jiu, what's wrong? Did I say something wrong?" Yun Chujio shook her head and smiled, "No, I just haven't seen him for a long time, so I was a little distracted. Don't talk about me. When will second aunt find a husband for you?" Lan Luofeng's face flushed red. "Don't spout nonsense. I'm not getting married." Yun Chujio saw that she was very embarrassed and did not continue this topic. Instead, she started to chat about other things. After dinner, Yun Chujio returned to her own courtyard. After bathing, Yun Chujio took out Di Baiming's voice transmission talisman. She thought about it and kept it. Since the gigolo said that he was going to get married, he would definitely come over. It was better to meet him first. At this moment, a cold voice came from outside the room, "Little Jiu, Panda's novel." Calm, she did not even bother to put on her shoes. She got off the bed and ran to the door to open it. Outside the room, a man in white stood tall. The moonlight cast a faint halo on him. For a moment, Yun Chujio felt that the person in front of her was not real, as if he would disappear at any time. Thinking of this, a wave of panic rose in her heart. She threw herself to his side and wrapped her arms around his waist tightly. Di Baiming looked at the person who was hugging him tightly. There was a look of pain and guilt in his eyes. When he saw that Yun Chujio was barefooted, he quickly carried her in his arms. Yun Chujio cried out in surprise and quickly wrapped her arms around Di Baiming's neck. When she saw the pain and guilt in his eyes, she could not help but feel stifled. She knew that something must have happened for the pretty boy to suddenly propose to get married. This dumb guy, he always had to bear the consequences silently. He really needed to be taught a lesson. "I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." Di Baiming carried Yun Chujio into the bedroom and bent down to gently put her on the bed. He did not expect Yun Chujio to suddenly exert force and actually bring the defenseless him onto the bed. Furthermore, she flipped over. She sat on top of him. A certain someone did not expect such a situation to happen. He actually forgot to react for a moment. There were no lights in the room. Only the dim moonlight shone through the window. The young girl's eyes were shockingly bright. Di Baiming felt as though his entire being was immersed in those eyes that were as bright as the stars. At this moment, the corner of the young girl's mouth curled up slightly and she suddenly kissed him. For a moment, the words that he wanted to say and the chaotic thoughts in his heart were thrown out of his mind. He only wanted to cling onto the person in front of him. However, a sharp pain came from his lips. He let out a low cry. Before he could say anything, he saw that the usually bright and beautiful girl was already crying. His heart instantly tightened. He did not care about his bleeding lips. He sat up and hurriedly used his hand to wipe the tears on the girl's face. "Little Jiu, what happened to you?" Yun Chujio only sobbed quietly and did not say anything. She was so heartbroken that he almost died. "Little Jiu, say something. What happened? Who bullied you? Tell me, I'll kill him for you." Yun Chujio ignored him and wiped her tears with her hands. Then she lay on the bed and wailed. The man was even more panicked now. He was so anxious that his forehead was covered in sweat, but he did not know how to comfort her. He wished that he could bang his head against the wall. Hei Shinjio, who was crying loudly, caught a glimpse of the Lord's frantic look through the gaps of her fingers. A cunning gleam flashed in her eyes. She said sobbingly, "I know that you don't love me anymore." The Lord did not have time to be reserved at this moment. He said hurriedly, "How can I not love you? I've only loved you for my entire life. If you don't believe me, I can swear to the heavens." Sob, you're just saying it nicely. If you love me, why are you always hiding things from me? You're treating me like an outsider. Sob, I want to be your wife, I don't want to be an outsider. Okay. My wife, you're my wife. They'll listen to you no matter what you say. Don't cry now, lest you hurt your body from crying. Panda's novel calmed strange grass and his dantian shook its leaves. How did this evil star become a fool in front of this stinky girl? That stinky girl was obviously faking it. If she was really that sad, why would she think of saying something about an outsider or wife? But what did a wife mean? Stupid humans love to say things that the grass doesn't understand. Damn it. Yun Chujio saw that it was almost time for her to act like a demon. She threw herself into a certain someone's arms and rubbed against it. She whimpered, "My heart hurts so much. It's all your fault." The certain someone didn't know that this person was acting like a demon. When he heard her say that her heart hurt, he quickly raised his hand to rub her heart. He wanted to use his spiritual power to alleviate her pain. However, when he rubbed her heart, he touched a ball of softness. A food that had a special meaning to him suddenly appeared in the certain someone's mind: glutinous rice balls. Yes, glutinous rice balls. Hei Shinjo was both embarrassed and angry. She immediately slapped the certain someone's hand away. "You pervert." The certain someone looked at Yun Chujio's tear-stained face and blushed. She was exceptionally beautiful. There seemed to be a ball of fire burning inside his body. Then he awkwardly pulled the blanket over his waist. Hei Shinjo, the guy was both embarrassed and angry. He glared at the Guai Chao and said, "Pervert. Shameless." Looking at her increasingly beautiful face, the Guai Chao felt that it was going to explode. He wished that he could tear the girl in front of him into pieces and eat her, but he couldn't do anything because of the damn Guai Chao. "I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." The Guai Chao and Yun Chujio's dantian couldn't help but shiver. It sensed the deep resentment of the Guai Chao. As a male, it felt that it had to shed a tear for the Guai Chao. However, there was nothing it could do. A dead fellow Taoist would never die. Having sex was more important than its life. In any case, it wouldn't die if it didn't have sex. A certain venerable closed its eyes and opened them after a long while. Seeing Hei Shinjo lying on the bed with her shoulders twitching, it couldn't help but feel pain in its heart. "Little Jio, don't cry. They'll tell you what you want to know." Hei Shinjo, who was laughing secretly, fortunately this drama queen could possess her at any time. She immediately squeezed out a few crocodile tears and raised her head to ask, "Why do you want to marry me all of a sudden? Are you lustful and want to have sex with me after marrying me?" A certain someone did not know whether to deny or admit it. Of course he wanted to have sex, but the key problem was that he did not want to. Yun Chujio glanced at a certain someone's tightly pursed lips and clenched fists. She snorted in her heart. There was indeed something that he was hiding from her. After 3 days of not having sex, this gigolo needed to be taught a lesson. Sob, 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 I know. The reason why you want to marry me must be because you are in a hurry to marry a concubine. You ingrate. My heart is about to break into 108 pieces. Di Biming closed his eyes. After a moment he said, "Little Jio, don't cry. I'll tell you the reason." Yun Chujio immediately pricked up her ears. She wanted to hear what this pretty boy would say. Di Biming did not speak for a long time. However, his expression was very complicated. There was guilt, pain, and a bit of struggle. Yun Chujio felt that she needed to work harder, so she started crying again. A certain venerable clenched his fists tightly again and said with a pained expression, "Not long ago, I unsealed another layer of the seal, and some fragments of memories appeared in my mind." Fragments of memories? What fragments? Does it have anything to do with me? Yun Chujio asked curiously. A certain being nodded with some difficulty. It was a memory that he would never want to remember. In the picture there was only a woman in red who could topple kingdoms and cities. However, the expression on the woman's face was so determined that it made his heart almost suffocate. The woman was holding a huge axe that was suffused with red light. The woman used the huge axe to cut off a lock of her hair and said resolutely, "Di Biming, from today onwards, our friendship will be severed, and we will never see each other again for the rest of our lives." When Di Biming saw this memory fragment, his heart felt like it had been split into countless wounds. The pain made it difficult for him to breathe. His head buzzed. He suddenly remembered what Qiying had said. He and Yun Chujio were mortal enemies in his previous life. He was afraid. He knew Yun Chujio too well. Although she was usually very outgoing, she was very clear about her grudges. Once she decided on something, no one could change it. He was afraid that if Yun Chujio really remembered the memories of her past life, she would leave him. He was afraid that if the so-called grudges could not be resolved, he would lose her. He was even more afraid that if Yun Chujio remembered the memories of her past life, she would hate him. "I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." Calm, although he did not know what kind of character Yun Chujio had in her past life, and he did not know what exactly happened. Since she was so determined, he must have done something that made her very sad. She couldn't forgive him. So, after thinking about it, he decided to marry Yun Chujio immediately. Perhaps in the future, when she remembered the memories of her previous life, she would at least give him a chance to make up for it, for the sake of being husband and wife. He didn't expect her to forgive him, he just hoped that she wouldn't disappear without a trace. He had hesitated, thinking that it was selfish and even a little shameless, but if he didn't have little Gio in his life, what meaning would there be? Compared to losing little Gio, he would rather be selfish and bear the blame. As long as he could be with little Gio, he was willing to give up everything, even the principles that he had always adhered to. D. Biming described the fragments of his memories once, and then said with difficulty, "Little Gio, I know that what I did was a little despicable, but I don't want to lose you. If you are angry, just hit me and scold me. I have no complaints. I have let you down for this matter." Yun Chujio listened to D. Biming's words with a dull expression and did not speak for a long time. D. Biming's heart instantly sank to the bottom, and his body even faintly trembled. A huge panic struck him. Would little Gio abandon him? He closed his eyes and endured the pain that tore through his heart. He said, "Little Gio, I have let you down. If you..." Before he could finish his words, he was beaten up by Yun Chujio. Pandas novel. Unfortunately, this guy knew how to hit people without hitting their faces, so he didn't beat a certain someone into a pig's head. The certain someone was willing to do it, and he even felt great joy in his heart. As long as little Gio was willing to beat him, it meant that she wouldn't leave him alone. Chapter 52-46. Hey Shinjio beat up a certain someone until he was tired, then she stopped. Although there was nothing on the body that did not hurt, the feeling of fear from a few days ago was gone. He wished he could be beaten up for a while more. Of course, he was not a masochist, but he knew that as long as little Gio was willing to beat him up and was willing to be angry, it meant that she cared about him. Even if she remembered the memories of her past life in the future, she would at least give him a chance to make up for it. The leaves of the Guai Chao and Yun Chujia's dantian were shaking. This fiend was the type that deserved a beating. Not only was he not angry after being beaten up by the little brat, he was actually happy. What else could he be if not asking for a beating? However, this little brat was really vicious. This was purely domestic violence. Fortunately, Xiaomogu was gentle and kind. She would not be as vicious and cruel as this little brat. Why did she think of Xiaomogu again? Yun Chujio kicked a certain someone again and sat back down on the bed in a huff. A certain someone carefully looked at Yun Chujio. Seeing that she had no intention of hitting her again, he stood up and muttered, "Xiaomogu, have you calmed down? If you haven't calmed down, continue to hit me tomorrow until you've calmed down." Yun Chujio snorted coldly, "Shut up, I don't want to listen to you." Hearing that, a certain honored warrior didn't dare to make a sound. He also didn't dare to approach the bed. He stood there foolishly, looking rather pitiful. Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered to look at him. She lay back on the bed and closed her eyes to sleep. The pitiful honored warrior wanted to speak but didn't dare, let alone go to bed to sleep. He could only continue to stand pitifully and comfort himself. As long as little Gio could calm down, he could stand. It was not like he had never stood before. Naturally, Hei Shinjio couldn't fall asleep. After a while, she sat up again and beckoned with her finger. "Come here." The one was immediately overjoyed and arrived in front of the bed in a flash. "Little Gio, you're not angry anymore? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Yun Chujio poked his chest with her finger. "Let me ask you, do you have a pig's brain? Are you stupid?" A certain someone stared at the white and tender finger poking his chest, and his mind went blank for a moment, so he did not say anything. Yun Chujio did not even want to hear his answer and continued, "I'm so smart, why did I find a fool like you?" A certain being finally came back to his senses. When he heard Yun Chujio's words, it was rare for him to be witty. He said, "This way we complement each other." Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and looked at the pitiful look of a certain being. She said, "Are you stupid? What you remember is just a fragment. How do you know that you're the one who let me down? Little Gio, since you said in your previous life that you would sever all ties and never see each other again, I must have let you down." Yun Chujio pursed her lips. "That might not be true. Maybe I was just playing with you. Or maybe I was acting for others to see. According to my personality, I have never used a beauty like you. How could I throw you away?" A certain someone did not care whether the words beauty or throw away applied to him. His eyes lit up. "Is that really the case? I didn't let you down?" Yun Chujio rubbed her chin and rolled her eyes. Although I don't have the memories of my previous life, I shouldn't be able to do such a grievous thing. What do you mean by cutting off all ties? Is that what you mean by cutting off all ties if you want to? At the very least, you should repay kindness with kindness and take revenge with hatred, right? Never to see each other again in this lifetime. Sounds so sour. I can't say such pretentious words. If I had to say it, I'd say I'd sleep with you, for the rest of my life. Chapter 5247, Gowei Batsao discovered Di Biming was stunned. That's right. According to little Joe's character, how could she say such words and do such a thing? However, the memory fragments were exceptionally real. Even little Joe's eyes were so determined. Was it really not true? Yun Chujio poked his chest with her hand. Also, the most important point is that I said before that the previous life is the previous life, and this life is this life. Don't say that. I would never say something like that. Even if it's true, what can I do? Since we've already reincarnated, the past is all in the past. If we give up the happiness of this life for the so-called past, wouldn't that be foolish? A certain someone's eyes instantly lit up like stars. Little Gio, is what you said true? No matter what happens in your past life, you won't leave me? Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. Let me ask you, if you completely recover your memories and find out that I'm your enemy, will you leave me? A certain someone didn't even think about it and said resolutely, of course not. Even if you killed me in your previous life, I would be willing to suffer. Yun Chujio poked a certain someone's chest again. Then that's it. You have to believe in me as if you believe in yourself. Just like how you lost your memories previously, but didn't you still shamelessly fall in love with me? Therefore we can't be separated. If you have the time to worry about these things, you might as well spend more time with me, the young girl who stayed behind. A certain someone suddenly grabbed Hei Xinjia's hand that was still poking randomly. Then he leaned down and covered his lips. Hey Xinjio, damn it, men were indeed animals that had not fully evolved. If you want to talk nicely. What kissing? Shameless. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. After lingering for a long time, a certain someone finally released Hei Xinjio reluctantly. Hei Xinjio glared at him. Pervert. Shameless. Seeing her exceptionally beautiful face, a certain someone could not help but kiss her again. Hei Xinjio was fast asleep because she had hit a certain someone hard. Di Biming did not feel sleepy at all. Looking at Hei Xinjio, who was sleeping soundly in his arms tightened again, and his eyes were slightly moist. The fear, unease, and even despair that had been tormenting him for the past few days finally disappeared without a trace at this moment. Little Gio was right. He had to believe in her as he believed in himself. No matter what happened, no one could separate them. A certain someone who had not slept soundly for a long time kissed Hei Xinjio on the forehead before falling asleep with satisfaction. Hidden in the corner, Gowei Batsao saw that both of them had fallen asleep, so it swaggered out. It cursed in its heart, humans are so troublesome. They always torture themselves because of some unimportant things. Look at how carefree its dog tail is. Once a grass is full, the whole family won't be hungry. Just as Gowei Batsao was showing off, it was suddenly fixed in place by an icy gaze. Gowei Bakao's head buzzed. It's over. It was too careless. It actually jumped in front of this malignant star. Previously, this malignant star was injured, so it didn't discover it. Now it easily discovered it. What should it do? What should it do? Who will save it? Di Biming's eyes coldly stared at the purple Gowei Batsao on the ground, which was only the size of a pinky, and some of the questions in his heart were solved. No wonder there were some unbelievable things that happened in the 10,000-year-old swamp in the Supreme City. It was all because of this Gowei Batsao. Chapter 5248. The fearful Gowei Batsao. Di Biming was truly a little surprised. After all, he had never heard of any family's spiritual beast being able to amass a small treasury on its own. Moreover, little Zhou's Guaichao spiritual beast was clearly the strange grass clone in his dantian. It was truly unbelievable. Gowei Batsao saw that a certain one had been staring at it without making a sound, and it felt even more terrified. This fellow had turned itself into a foot tall, and all its leaves were prostrating on the ground. It was as if a human was kowtowing to it, as if it was a lackey. Di Biming obviously knew what it meant. It wanted to plead for mercy and not let him tell Yun Chujio about its existence. A certain being could not help but laugh. Thinking carefully, although this Gowei Batsao had caused a few disasters, it had helped little Gio quite a bit. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. However, when a certain being recalled that this fellow's true form had delayed his happy life, its expression immediately became gloomy. When Goei Batsao saw a certain being's gloomy expression, its heart sank. This was bad. This fiend was definitely going to snitch, so it had to think of a way. However, what method could it think of? It couldn't beat this fiend and it couldn't speak, so it could only accept its fate. With this thought, Goei Batsao decided not to kowtow. It turned into the size of a pinky cap again and slipped out through the crack of the door. A certain being shook its head. It was not naive to the extent of competing with a stalk of grass. If it was willing to go out, then go out. It was just a spiritual energy clone. Goei Batsao ran into the courtyard in a flash. Seeing that a certain being did not chase after it, the fellow drooped its leaves in worry. That fiend would definitely tell that wretched girl about its existence in the morning. Its days of freedom would be gone forever. If it had known earlier, it would have obediently hid in the corner to avoid being discovered by this fiend. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. How great would it be if this fiend suddenly had something urgent to do and left? If that was the case, he might not be able to remember this small matter of his and it could continue to hop around. Hence, this fellow began to kowtow to the moon. He prayed in his heart that Di Biming would leave immediately if he had something urgent to do. He did not know if Goei Bakeo's prayers had taken effect. When the sky was just beginning to brighten, Di Biming's eyes dimmed after receiving Shui Wuji's voice transmission talisman. He gently woke Yin Chujio up. Little Jio, I have something urgent to do. I have to leave immediately. I'll come back to see you in a few days. Yun Chujio, who was still in a daze, immediately became clear-headed when she heard that he was leaving. She could not help but pucker her lips. Di Biming said guiltily, the situation is urgent. His words were blocked by Yun Chujio. Yes, he used his mouth. A moment later, Hei Shinjio looked at the lips that she had bitten and said proudly, no need to explain. I understand. You can leave now. A certain someone was angry and amused, but he could not bear to do anything to her. He hugged her tightly and did not say anything. After a long while, a certain someone finally got up and turned around to leave. After hearing Shui Wuji's words, a certain someone was burning with anxiety, so he ignored the matter of Goei Batsao. When he remembered a few days later, he could not contact Hei Shinjio, so Goei Batsao escaped. Of course, these were all future matters. Goei Batsao was still hiding in the ant cave in the courtyard, trembling with fear. It was extremely nervous. When it saw a certain venerable leave, it became even more nervous. It was over. That fiend must have told that wretched girl about the matter. Its days of carefree Goei Batsao were gone for good. Chapter 5249 The secret behind the bluestone tablet. Goei Batsao was frightened for quite a while, but she did not see Yun Chujio deal with it. She could not help but feel happy. Could it be that the fiend found his conscience and did not report it? TSK, seeing that he was so tactful, it would repay him well in the future. However, it could not do anything about the matter of having sex. Besides, wasn't it good to have a pure heart and few desires? Those monks from the Zen sect never had sex in their entire lives, and they were also living quite well. If a certain venerable knew about this fellow's thoughts, he would probably have told Hei Shinjio about this matter in the middle of the night yesterday. Hei Shinjio sighed, then she hugged the quilt and rubbed against it. It seemed that Di Biming's cold aura was still lingering on the quilt. She was puzzled. Why did Di Biming remember some memories from her past life when the seal was broken? But she could not remember anything. This guy stayed in bed for a while before he got up to wash up. In the following period of time, Yun Chujio went to the library of the ancestral residence to read and train her 500 guards. She had a fulfilling life. Of course, there was also something troubling. It had been a while since she came back, and Mount Meru had not received any more heavenly lightning. This fellow thought to herself, if Mount Meru did not receive any more heavenly lightning, wouldn't she have to cause a thunderstorm again? This fellow's spiritual power had already reached the peak of the 8th level of the extreme spiritual realm, so there was no use in cultivating, unless she was struck by lightning. As time passed, this kind of worry became more and more intense, and her mood became a little impetuous. This fellow did not have the mood to cultivate, so he could only do other things. She remembered the green stone slab she had picked up in the Lianxing mountain range, and decided to build a kennel for Dog 2. Because Dog 2's appearance was ordinary, it was not afraid of being exposed to the light. It ran crazily in the yard all day long. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. When Dog 2 saw that Yun Chujio was going to build a kennel for it, It was naturally very happy. It surrounded Hei Shinjio and flattered her. "Little fairy, you are really too good to me. Don't worry, I Buttface am definitely not an ungrateful dog. I will definitely repay you properly in the future." Yun Chujio curled her lips. Did this Buttface really think of her as a dog? Where was the moral integrity of the fierce beast Cheong Chi? Yun Chujio drew a rough sketch of a doghouse and then took out the green stone slabs. Hong Ling and the other two curiously came over to help. Previously, in the Lianxing mountain range, other than cleaning the first green stone slab, the later ones were not worth much and no one took care of them. They were all covered in mud. Hong Ling and the other two used water to wash the green stone slabs. For a moment, the small courtyard was filled with joy. Miss, this green stone slab is very interesting. Not only is there a pattern on the front, there is also a pattern on the back. However, the pattern on the back is curved. It looks like a map. Hong Ling said in surprise. Yun Chujia's heart skipped a beat. She looked at the flagstone that Hong Ling was pointing at. There were some curved lines on the back of the flagstone. It indeed looked like a map. Yun Chujio immediately asked Hong Ling and the others to clean up the remaining flagstone. Then she placed it on the ground with the back facing up. After a while, Yun Chujio finally pieced the flagstone into a map. There were no words on the map. There was only an eye-catching mark on the map. What kind of map was this? Yun Chujio didn't have any clues, so she drew the map on a piece of paper. Maybe it would be useful in the future. Of course, she couldn't build a kennel. Maybe the green stone slabs were hiding some secrets. Although Buttface was a little disappointed, he didn't dare to say anything. His position wasn't stable now. There was the Buddha's candle in front and Hun Dun behind. If he didn't perform well, he would lose his position as the #1 spirit pet. Chapter 52. Qing family of the Valley of Fog. Yun Chujio was bored to death and decided to pay her respects to the ancestor of the Lan family and wash her face at the same time. As soon as this guy jumped into the ancestral house, he met the ancestor. "Ancestor, are you going out?" Yun Chujio asked curiously. The ancestor of the Lan family lived in seclusion and rarely left his own courtyard. It seemed that he was going out. The ancestor of the Lan family did not hide anything and said, "The Qi family found an excuse not to sell our Lan family high-grade equipment, so I'm going to the Qing family in the Valley of Fog to buy some spirit tools." Yun Chujio's eyes lit up when she heard that. She had always wanted to buy a few high-grade flying and defensive spirit tools, so she naturally could not miss such a good opportunity. Hence, this fellow smiled like a flower. "Ancestor, our imperial city is a few days away from the Valley of Fog. You are so lonely and cold by yourself. Who will bring you tea and water? Who will laugh with you to relieve your boredom?" The ancestor glanced at her and pointed at Hunchback beside her. "Don't worry about that. Hunchback will go with me." "Hey Shinjio," the guy straightforwardly said shamelessly, "Ancestor, can you take me with you? I want to broaden my horizons. Please." The ancestor looked at her pitiful look and hesitated. It was okay to bring one more person, but this troublemaker would cause trouble wherever she went. What if she caused trouble? Hey Shinjio guessed the old ancestor's thoughts and quickly said, "Old ancestor, don't worry. I promise to be obedient and not cause trouble. Moreover, we are going to buy spiritual artifacts, not to fight. What trouble can I cause? What trouble can I cause?" The Lan family's old ancestor thought that it made sense. He would come back after buying the spiritual artifacts in Fog Valley, so nothing would happen. Moreover, he was not at ease to let this troublemaker stay in the imperial city. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Hence he nodded. "All right, then you can go with me. However, there is one thing. If you cause any trouble this time, not only will I strip you of the right to fight for the position of young master, but I will also take back the 500 guards that I gave you." Yun Chujio nodded obediently and agreed. However, she cursed in her heart. This old fox was really shameless. He still wanted to take back the things that he gave to others? Not to mention that she would not cause any trouble. Even if she did, it would be impossible for her to return them to him. He still wanted to take back the things that had fallen into her hands? This was simply a huge joke. The Lan family's ancestor did not know what this fellow was thinking. Immediately, he brought her, Elder Tua, and a group of guards and set off towards Fog Valley. The journey was very smooth. The flying spirit tool landed on the ground. This place is still hundreds of li away from the Fog Valley, but because of the ban on flying we can only go there on foot, the ancestor of the Lan family explained. Yun Chujio wasn't surprised by this. Many places would ban flying either because of the geography or because of the formation. After walking for 4 hours, Yun Chujio saw clouds and mist in the distance. It must be the Fog Valley. After walking for another 2 hours, they finally arrived at the entrance of the Fog Valley. The entrance of the Fog Valley was guarded by members of the Qing family. They had to check their identity documents to be at ease. Even the ancestor of the Lan family was no exception. From this, it could be seen that the Qing family of the Fog Valley had some confidence. There was no other way. Who asked them to refine a spirit tool that was unparalleled in the world? After everyone was checked their identity documents, they were finally let in. Yun Chujio originally thought that she would reach the Qing family after entering the Fog Valley. She did not expect that the Fog Valley was very big. The entrance of the valley was not far from the Qing family. Chapter 52-51 Qing Family Shop. Yun Chujio followed the ancestor of the Lan family for more than an hour before she saw a city. There were 3 big words written on the plaque: Foggy Valley City. Ancestor, does the Qing family live in Foggy Valley City? Yun Chujio asked curiously. The ancestor of the Lan family shook his head. Although there are Qing family shops and many cultivators in Foggy Valley City, the people of the Qing family don't live in Foggy Valley City. Instead, they live in Green Valley, which is 30 miles away from Foggy Valley City. Yun Chujio nodded. Then, should we buy spiritual weapons from the shops in Foggy Valley City or go to Green Valley City? Well, stay in Foggy Valley City first and buy some ordinary spiritual weapons. Then, we'll go to Green Valley City to buy some rare spiritual weapons, answered the ancestor of the Lan family. The ordinary spiritual weapons mentioned by the ancestor of the Lan family were not ordinary either. As long as they were made by the Qing family in Foggy Valley, they were all high-quality goods. Even if their prices were several times higher than other families, they didn't have to worry about sales. Yun Chujio was still a little puzzled. Didn't they say that it was very difficult to buy things from the Qing family in the Valley of Fog? Since there were shops of the Qing family in the Valley of Fog City, she could buy them if she had the money. What was so difficult to buy? This question was quickly solved. After entering the Valley of Fog City, she found that there was a long line at the entrance of every shop. Moreover, even if the line reached you, you might not necessarily be able to buy the things you wanted to buy or even nothing. That was because after the line reached you, in addition to handing over normal money, every item would have additional conditions such as herbs, ores, and even some strange missions. If the corresponding conditions were not met, then sorry, you could only return empty-handed. Yun Chujio's eyes immediately lit up. This Fog Valley's Qing family really knew how to do business. This way, the materials they needed to refine weapons would not be in short supply, and they could also create a high-end and high-class status. This time, the ancestor of the Lan family came prepared. He brought a lot of ores and herbs and also a lot of guards. He arranged for the guards to line up. When the line arrived, he would go over to pay the money and the corresponding herbs and ores. As there were several shops, the ancestor of the Lan family, Elder Tua, and Hei Xinjiu were each responsible for a few nearby shops. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Before the ancestor of the Lan family left, he was a little hesitant. The reason was very simple. Naturally, he was afraid that Hei Xinjiu would cause trouble. However, he did not want to cause trouble even if he wanted to buy something. Moreover, the shop he was in charge of was only 1 street away from here. It should not be a problem. Therefore, the ancestor of the Lan family gave a few instructions to Yun Chujio and went to another street. Yun Chujio leisurely watched from the side. Anyway, the people of the Lan family would not be able to line up for a while. These shops needed to line up to buy things, but they were casual to visit. Therefore, Yun Chujio randomly chose a shop and walked in. If there were customers who asked about the goods, the staff in the shop would also explain, but they were not so enthusiastic. After all, there was no need to worry about selling these things. Even if there was no one to explain, there were instructions written under the equipment. They were very detailed and could basically understand it. Yun Chujio was itching to see it, especially those defensive spiritual artifacts. Many of them had already reached the low-grade immortal artifact level. This guy decided to use his official position for personal gain. When the Lan family members lined up later, he would definitely buy more. After all, she did not lack money or ores. Just as this guy was thinking happily, he heard the ingratiating voice of the shopkeeper. "Second miss, you're here." Chapter 52-52, The tree desires peace, but the wind does not stop. Yun Chujio was stunned. The sect master was so arrogant, and now he was flattering her. This second miss must have a high status. Could she be from the Qing family? Yun Chujio thought as she turned her head. She saw the shopkeeper greet a young girl with a bow and a bow. Behind the young girl were 4 maids and more than a dozen guards. Yun Chujio was slightly stunned when she saw the young lattice appearance. She felt that this young lattice appearance was somewhat familiar, but she could not remember where she had seen her before. The young lattice appearance was beautiful, but the arrogance in her eyes was really displeasing. The young lady swept her gaze over the people in the shop. She paused on Yun Chujio for a moment and frowned slightly. However, she did not say anything. The young girl said to the shopkeeper, "Give me the profits for this month. I have a use for it." The shopkeeper's smile suddenly stiffened and he mumbled, "Second miss, this is not appropriate, right?" Before the young girl spoke, a maid behind her, Han Xiang, berated, "How dare you? How dare you speak to our miss like this? Are you tired of living?" The shopkeeper became even more terrified and explained, "Second young miss, it's not that I have offended you. It's just that this shop is the property of the great master, and I can't make the decision. Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Han Xiang sneered, "You are really a loyal dog of the great master. In 2 days, all the shops of the Qing family will belong to our second young miss. Why can't our young miss come 2 days earlier to collect the spirit stones?" When the shopkeeper heard Han Xiang's words, a trace of anger flashed in his eyes, but he still suppressed it and continued to say in a low voice, "These are the matters of the masters. As a slave I am only following orders. Please forgive me, second young miss." A trace of impatience flashed across the face of the second young miss. After Han Xiang saw it, she snorted coldly and said, "How dare you, slave? You have really rebelled against the heavens. If you don't do as second young miss says today, you don't have to be the shopkeeper anymore." The shopkeeper probably couldn't stand it anymore. He changed his previous low and humble tone and said coldly, "No matter who this shop belongs to in the future, it's still a big house now. Second miss, don't make things difficult for me." The second miss sneered, "Teach him the rules?" Immediately, a few guards came forward and pressed down on the shopkeeper. Han Xiang went forward and gave the shopkeeper a hard slap. "Are you going to give it or not?" The shopkeeper's eyes were red. "I've said it before. This is the property of the big house, not the second house." The shopkeeper's words naturally attracted another round of slaps. Yun Chujio frowned. She did not like it, but she was not a good person, so she did not intend to interfere. However, the tree wanted to be quiet, but the wind would not stop. Han Xiang knew her young miss temper the best. Her young miss hated women who were more beautiful than her. She wanted to please her young miss, so she glared at Yun Chujio. "Why are you frowning? Are you trying to fight for justice? Or are you this old fool's lover?" Yun Chujio never thought that she would attract trouble just by watching a show. She remembered the instructions of the Lan family's ancestor. She suppressed the displeasure in her heart and said to the second young miss, "Miss, your servant girl spoke rudely. What do you say?" Yun Chujio had planned to let it go if the second miss taught the servant girl a lesson and apologized to her. After all, the second miss should be a member of the Qing family, so it was better not to offend her. However, she didn't expect that the second miss didn't apologize. Instead, she sneered and said, "This is the Qing family's territory. It's no big deal for my servant girl to scold you. Do you want me to apologize? Moreover, you look like a vixen. Do you still blame others for saying that?" Chapter 52-53 The Road to Death or the Road to Heaven. Yun Chujio did not expect that the second miss of the Qing family would say such a thing. Instead of being angry, she laughed. "Miss, did you mean what you said just now? Are you not joking with me?" The disdain on the second miss of the Qing family's face grew even more. "Joking? What right do you have to make me joke with you? Not to mention that my maid only said a few words to you. Even if I killed you, no one in Fog Valley City would dare to say anything against me. If you know what's good for you, you'd better shut up right now, or I'll make sure you won't be able to leave this Fog Valley City." Before Yun Chujio could speak, the shopkeeper quickly said to Yun Chujio, "Miss, this matter has nothing to do with you. You'd better leave this place as soon as possible." The shopkeeper was naturally kind-hearted. He felt that if Yun Chujio and the second young lady of the Qing family fought head-on, they would definitely suffer a loss. Moreover, he felt that Yun Chujio had suffered an undeserved disaster and was more or less implicated by him, so he advised her. The maid, Han Xiang, clicked her tongue and said, "See, I already said that this bitch has an affair with this old thing. You help me and I help you. You really have deep feelings for each other?" Yun Chujio's eyes suddenly turned cold. When had her little hot-tempered temper ever suffered such cowardice? Even when her strength was at its lowest, whoever provoked her would be beaten up. This Han Xiang and the Qing family's second young miss were really courting death. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Previously, she had only thought of the Lan family's ancestors' instructions and wanted to give this master and servant a chance. She did not expect them to be so shameless and even become more enthusiastic. Since that was the case, then let's stretch our limbs. Yun Chuzhou had the same thoughts and did the same thing. As soon as Han Xiang finished speaking, she was slapped by Yun Chuzhou. Han Xiang staggered a few steps back from the slap. If she had not been supported by a maid, she would have fallen down. Han Xiang could not believe what had happened. There was actually someone who dared to hit her in Fog Valley City? She was the servant girl of the second miss of the Qing family. Was this bitch tired of living? After Han Xiang screamed in pain, she roared ferociously, "You bitch, how dare you hit me? I'll kill you." Han Xiang slapped her palm towards Yun Chuzhou, but Yun Chuzhou was clearly still in front of her a moment ago, but she disappeared in the blink of an eye. Just as she was in a daze, she felt a chill on her neck. Yun Chuzhou's chilly time came from behind her. "If you want to die, try moving." Han Xiang lowered her head and looked at the large kitchen knife pressed against her neck. She was both afraid and angry. "Miss, save me. This bitch." Before she could finish her words, a bloody scar appeared on her neck. She shut her mouth in fear and did not dare to say another word. Whether it was the shopkeeper or the others, they were all shocked by Yun Chuzhou's actions. She actually dared to touch the second miss of the Qing family in Fog Valley City? Was she seeking death? Was it the ignorant who were fearless, or did she have something to rely on? The second miss of the Qing family's expression was very cold. "If you let Han Xiang go now, I will only destroy your appearance and spare your life. If you don't let her go, then only death awaits." Yun Chuzhou laughed lightly and said, "Only death awaits? I will take any path, but I won't take the road of death. Even if it's a road of death in front of me, it has to become a road to heaven." The second miss of the Qing family sneered, "You really don't know life and death. Take her down for me. If you don't care about the life and death of your servant girl, get someone to do it." Yun Chuzhou slightly exerted force on her hand, and another bloody scar appeared on Han Xiang's neck. Han Xiang immediately screamed, "Miss, help! Help!" Chapter 52-54. All is fair in war. The second miss of the Qing family glared at Han Xiang fiercely. "What are you screaming for? She doesn't dare to kill you. Attack!" The guards immediately swarmed forward and surrounded Yun Chuzhou in the middle. Yun Chuzhou sighed, "Han Xiang, right? Look at what kind of person you are with your master. She doesn't care about your life and death at all. I really feel sorry for you. It's better to beg yourself than to beg others. If you want to live, apologize to me and I'll let you go. Otherwise, even if I can't escape, he'll have to kill you first." As Yun Chuzhou spoke, she cut Han Xiang's neck again. Han Xiang was scared out of her wits. After hearing the words of the second miss of the Qing family, she couldn't care about anything else and only wanted to save her life. She said incoherently, "I was wrong. I shouldn't have scolded you. I'm talking nonsense. I'm not a human. Please let me go. Please let me go." The second miss of the Qing family's expression became even more unsightly. Han Xiang, this slut, was actually intimidated by that slut and gave in. She really deserved to die. Yun Chuzhou curled the corners of her lips. "Since you admit your mistake and change, I'll spare your life." Scram. As Yun Chuzhou spoke, she withdrew her cleaver and let go of Han Xiang. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." She could have killed Han Xiang, but she felt that it was better to let the master and servant fight each other. It was obvious that the second miss of the Qing family was a vicious person. Han Xiang had just begged for mercy, but she would not be able to get better after she returned. As expected, the second miss of the Qing family gave Han Xiang a hard slap and said coldly, "I'll deal with you when I get back." Han Xiang's face was swollen like a pig's head at this time, and there was still fresh blood flowing down her neck. She was as miserable as she could be. She was so regretful that her intestines were turning green. If she had known earlier, she would not have said anything. However, she could not get better, and that bitch would not be able to live either. After offending the second miss, even if she had 100 lives, it would not be enough. As expected, when the second miss of the Qing family saw that Yun Chuzhou no longer had any hostages in her hands, she became even more unscrupulous. She said to her subordinates, "What are you still standing there for? Kill her." "Wait." Yun Chuzhou stopped her. The second miss of the Qing family said with contempt, "What? You're afraid now? It's too late. You will die today. Let's put aside whether you're dead or not. Do you dare to fight me one-on-one? However, you're so ugly. I reckon you're also a coward. You definitely won't dare to accept the challenge." Yun Chujio looked at the second miss of the Qing family provocatively. The second miss of the Qing family valued her appearance the most. Hearing Yun Chujio's words, she immediately sneered, "Fine, then I'll personally deal with you today. However, I have changed my mind. I will not kill you. I will break your tendons and sell them to the lowest level furnaces and cauldrons. I will make your life a living hell." Yun Chujio's eyes deepened. This second miss of the Qing family was really courting death. Yun Chujio pointed outside and said, "There is limited space here. Let's go outside and do it." The second miss of the Qing family snorted coldly and took the lead to leave the shop. However, she never expected that before she could take 2 steps, a gust of cold wind came from behind. Before she could even react, Yun Chujio had already forced her neck with a big kitchen knife. The second miss of the Qing family was a little stunned at first, then she couldn't contain her anger. "You cheated? Didn't you say that you would fight outside?" Yun Chujio curled the corner of her mouth and said faintly, "Don't you know that there are many tricks in war? But it's also true that a fool like you naturally doesn't know. Otherwise, why would you provoke someone you can't afford to provoke?" Chapter 52-55 Qing Jin. When the besieged people heard Yun Chujio's words, they were all dumbfounded. There is no shortage of deceit in war? How could it be played like this? The maids and guards of the second miss of the Qing family immediately surrounded Yun Chujio in the middle. "Quickly release our miss or I'll kill you." TSK as expected, like master, like servant. It's really the same stupidity. I'm afraid that if I let her go, I won't be able to live, right? I have her as a hostage now. You guys should be careful. This is the best way for me to save my life. However, if you guys want to make a move, I won't stop you. Come on, let's do it," Yun Chujio said with a smile. The guards and maids naturally didn't dare to make a move. If they let the second miss get hurt, they wouldn't be able to live either. One of the guards, who seemed to be a small leader, stepped forward and said, "Miss, what happened before was a misunderstanding. As long as you let our miss go, we can discuss things. Do you think I'm as stupid as you? However, I don't want to cause any more trouble. As long as she apologizes to me, I'll let her go," Yun Chujio said. "In your dreams? Bitch, if you dare to hurt me today, I, Qing Jin, swear that not only will I make your life worse than death, but I'll also exterminate your entire family. Men will be killed and women will become prostitutes." "My face." Qing Jin screamed continuously because Yun Chujio had used a large kitchen knife to cut her left face. Didn't Qing Jin care about her appearance the most? Then she would go along with her wishes. She was very kind. Qing Jin realized that she had been disfigured by Yun Chujio and immediately screamed with a sharp and ferocious voice, "I will kill you. You bitch, I will make people take off your clothes and make the dirtiest beggar." Yun Chujio stabbed her right face again and said coldly, "If you still don't know what's good for you, he'll cut off your tongue and let you experience what you just said." Qing Jin didn't dare to say anything else. If her face was injured, she could still use medicine to heal it. But if her tongue was cut off, she would become a mute for the rest of her life. At this moment, the crowd was in a commotion. A middle-aged man walked in with many guards. Qing Jin saw the person and immediately cried out, "Father, save me." The middle-aged man's sinister gaze landed on Yun Chujio. "Let my daughter go or I'll make you regret it." The person who came was Qing Yuankue, the second son of the Qing family. He was Qing Jin's father. Yun Chujio did not show any fear on her face. She said indifferently, "Senior, is it appropriate for you to threaten me without asking me anything? It's true that this Foggy Valley city is the territory of your Qing family. However, guests are guests. The way your Qing family treats guests is a little too much." TSK, it's hard to explain it in one word. Qing Yuankue sneered in his heart. In this Foggy Valley city, it was the Qing family's word to let anyone live or die. However, he was more shrewd than Qing Jin, so he would not put such arrogant words on the table. Therefore he said, "Let Jin go first and then we can discuss the right and wrong." Yun Chujio was not stupid. If she let Qing Jin go, she was afraid that she would be beaten up. Only a fool would let her go. At this time, the guards of the Lan family who were lining up nearby came forward and protected Yun Chujio behind. These guards basically knew Yun Chujio, and most of them had followed her to the 10,000-year-old swamp. The reason why they didn't come forward earlier was because they were certain that their young cousin was a valiant person and would definitely not be at a disadvantage. Now that they saw Qin Yuan Kuei bringing people here, they came forward to help. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 52-56 The ancestor of the Lan family had arrived. Yun Chujio looked at the guards with satisfaction, and a faint smile appeared on her face. However, this guy was grumbling in his heart. Logically speaking, with such a big commotion here, that old fox should have gotten the message long ago. Why wasn't he here yet? In fact, it was a coincidence that the ancestor of the Lan family had gone to another street to buy a spiritual weapon. Seeing that the guards in line were not going to be able to wait for a while, he went into the shop to choose a spiritual weapon. Seeing that the Lan family's ancestor had an extraordinary bearing, the shopkeeper directly let him go to the second floor, so the guards who came to report the news could not find the Lan family's ancestor. The Lan family's ancestor walked around the second floor. When he went down to the first floor, he saw a guard of the Lan family running over to report anxiously, "Ancestor, the young miss is fighting with someone." The ancestor of the Lan family, what happened to not getting into trouble? What happened to being obedient? It had only been a short while before she started fighting with someone. However, the ancestor of the Lan family thought that it was nothing more than a trivial matter. Once the other party found out that the troublemaker was a member of the Lan family, he reckoned that it would be over if the troublemaker apologized. Therefore, although the Lan family's ancestor frowned, he didn't take it to heart and asked, "She didn't do anything to the other party, right?" The reason why he asked this was because he knew that troublemaker too well. That person was a person who didn't want to be taken advantage of, and she was full of bad ideas. At the very least, she had the protection of the Lan family's guards. No matter what, she wouldn't be taken advantage of. The unlucky one should be the other party. The guard who reported the news said with a somewhat stiff expression, "The young miss has kidnapped the second young miss of the Qing family. She even cut her face twice. Qin Yuan Kuei of the second branch of the Qing family is threatening the young miss to release her." The Lan family's ancestor, his face instantly turned green. Good. Very good. This troublemaker really could cause trouble for him. She actually disfigured the second young miss of the Qing family? This was going to infuriate him to death. The Lan family's patriarch angrily left the shop and headed straight to the scene of the incident. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. At this moment, Qin Yuan Kuei Yun Chujio and the others were confronting each other. Qin Yuan Kuei saw that many guards had suddenly appeared beside Yun Chujio, and his pupils constricted because he saw the marks on the guards' clothes. Were they from the Lan family? He frowned. Are you from the Lan family? Yun Chujio noticed that there was a commotion behind the crowd. Her heart skipped a beat. The old fox had arrived. Hence, this fellow straightened his back and said, "That's right. I'm from the Lan family." Senior, previously in the shop, Qing Jin allowed the servant girl to hurl hurtful words at others. I tried to reason with her nicely and gave in repeatedly. However, she became even worse and threatened to sell me to such a dirty place. I was forced into a helpless situation, so I took action to protect myself. Since I'm a member of the Lan family, I represent the Lan family's face outside. If I give in blindly, won't people laugh at my Lan family? Senior, you seem to be a reasonable person. You won't be calculative with this junior, right? Qin Yuan Kuei sneered again and again. What a sharp tongue. This is just your one-sided statement. Moreover, no matter what the cause of the matter is, you've already hurt Jin. Today's matter cannot be settled peacefully. Release Jin quickly and cut your own face. I can let you live. Otherwise, even if you are a member of the Lan family, you can forget about leaving this Fog Valley city. At this moment, the Lan family's patriarch's displeased voice sounded, "Evil creature. Quickly release the Qing family's second young miss." The Lan family's patriarch's expression was a little ugly. Firstly, it was because Yun Chujio had caused trouble, and secondly, it was because of Qin Yuanqi's attitude. Chapter 52-57 Forming a group to bully me. The Lan family's ancestor thought to himself. Although that troublemaker loved to cause trouble, from what she said, everything was caused by Qing Jin, yet this Qin Yuan Kuei refused to let it go. He was really going too far. Moreover, the Lan family's ancestor was also an overlord of a region. No matter how inferior his own junior was, he would not allow others to bully him. However, this Foggy Valley city was the territory of the Qing family. He still did not plan to make a big deal out of it, so he ordered Yun Chujio to release him. Hearing this, Yun Chujio immediately pushed Qing Jin in front of Qing Yuankui, and then ran to the ancestor of the Lan family with tears streaming down her face. Woo ancestor, you're finally here. I'm going to be bullied to death. It doesn't count if my daughter bullies me. As a father, she also bullies me. They're forming a group to bully me. That Qing Jin and the maids slandered me for looking like a vixen, saying that I was having an affair with that old shopkeeper. They even said that they wanted to kill all the males of our Lan family. The women were all sold to the furnaces and tripod shops. They even said that they would give me, sob, and this senior from the Qing family forced me to cut my own face. Fortunately, you're here. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to see me. Old ancestor, you have to make a decision for me. You also know that my health is not good. If I get angry, I will get sick. Ouch, my head hurts so much. As Yun Chujio said that, she held her head and moaned, looking like she was half dead. Everyone who watched the whole process, too sinister, too shameless, too shameless. Although the cause that she said was in line with the truth, she was lying through her teeth about being bullied to death and her poor health. She was bullied to death? Han Xiang's face was swollen like a pig's head, and her neck was stained with blood. Not to mention, Qing Jin's face was scratched by her. Who was bullied by whom? Moreover, she was still in high spirits just now, and now she was sick? Who was she lying to? Qing Jin was about to explode with anger. She pointed at Yun Chujio and scolded, "Bitch, you're spouting nonsense. Father, help me kill her." "No, I want to strip her." "Shut up." Qing Yuankui shouted angrily and stopped Qing Jin from continuing. The reason why Qing Yuankui did this was because he recognized the identity of the Lan family's patriarch. The Lan family's patriarch's expression became even more unsightly because after hearing Qing Jin's words, he believed Yun Chujio's words even more. It seemed that this troublemaker was really not to blame. This Qing Jin really deserved to die. Qing Yuankui was a junior, so it was reasonable for him to greet him first. Therefore, although he was displeased, he still bowed. However, he still bowed and said, "This junior, the second son of the Qing family, Yuan Kuei, greets the patriarch of the Lan family. I didn't know that you had come to Fog Valley City. Please forgive me for not welcoming you." The Lan family's patriarch nodded. "There's no need to be so polite. If you have anything to say, would better find a quiet place to talk. Don't let others see us as a joke here." "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Qing Yuankui nodded. "Please follow me, senior." The ancestor of the Lan family nodded slightly. Then he glared at Hei Shinjio, who was half dead, and left with Qing Yuankui. Seeing the ancestor of the Lan family leave, Hei Shinjio quickly followed him. What a joke. Was she waiting to be beaten up by a group of people if she stayed here? Seeing her lively appearance, everyone's lips twitched. Didn't she say that she was ill? Her illness was recovering quite quickly. At this moment, old Tua heard the news and brought his men over. When old Tua saw the miserable state of Qing Jin and Han Xiang, he knew without asking that the troublemaker was in trouble. Qing Yuankui obviously knew about old Tua. He took the initiative to greet him and the group arrived at a tea house not far away. Chapter 52-58 On account of your good looks, both parties exchanged pleasantries, and the Lan family's old ancestor took the lead and said, "Little ninth girl, hurry up and apologize to your sister Qing Jin. Although you two sisters hit it off for fun, you should still have a sense of propriety. Hurry up and go." Hearing this, Yun Chujio secretly laughed in her heart. This old fox was really mean. He sealed the words first. No matter how unwilling Qing Yuankui was, he couldn't say anything. Sure enough, Qing Yuanqi's expression was a little stiff. He wanted to refute, but the Lan family's ancestor's seniority was on par with his great-grandfather. Their statuses were not comparable at all. If that stinky girl had come to Fog Valley City alone, he could have just killed her and apologized to the Lan family with a few spiritual artifacts. But now that the Lan family's ancestor was here, he could only swallow his anger first. Therefore, even though he hated her to death in his heart, he gritted his teeth and said, "Senior Lan is right. It's just a fight between the two sisters. I'll be good if we can talk things out." Qing Jin simply couldn't believe her ears. Her father actually said that this matter would be settled just like that? "Sister Qing Jin, I didn't do it lightly and offended you. I'm really sorry. You're not angry with me, right?" Yun Chujio said sincerely. Qing Jin wanted to strangle Yun Chujio to death, but just as she was about to flare up, she saw Qing Yuanqi's warning eyes. She could only bite her lips and say nothing. "Sister Qing Jin, are you not going to forgive me if you don't speak?" "So be sob, I know I'm wrong. Sister Qingjin, for the sake of your good looks, please forgive me. Yun Chujio said sobbingly. Qingjin was so angry that she almost fainted. This bitch. She scratched her face and still dared to mention her appearance. She must have done it on purpose. Qin Yuankui coughed and said, Jin no matter who is right or wrong, the visitor is a guest. Don't be willful. Yun Chujio pursed her lips in her heart. No matter who is right or wrong. The visitor is a guest? Is she trying to say that it's all her fault? Was he trying to make Qingjin suffer and beg for forgiveness? Qingjin squeezed out a sentence from between her teeth. I forgive you. Yun Chujio immediately smiled and said, Thank you, Sister Qingjin. Qingjin was afraid that she could not help but strangle Yun Chujio to death. She lowered her head and did not look at her. In her heart, she wished that she could cut Yun Chujio into 1,000 pieces. The ancestor of the Lan family glared at Yun Chujio and told her to restrain herself. Then he said to Qin Yuankui, This little girl Jiu has not been by her parents' side since she was young, so she has neglected to discipline her. Sorry for making a fool of herself. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Qin Yuankui quickly said, Senior Lan, you're exaggerating. At this time, Qin Yuankui should have praised Yun Chujio, but he wished that he could slap Yun Chujio to death. He really couldn't say any words of praise, so he changed the topic. Senior Lan, you've come from afar, so you naturally want our Qing family to do our best as a host. Since it's still early, why don't you go to the Green Valley with me? The ancestor of the Lan family said with a smile, Since I'm here, I naturally have to pay a visit. However, I still have to buy some spirit tools in Foggy Valley City. Why don't I pay a visit to the Qing family 3 days later? Qin Yuankui immediately said, All right, then as Senior Lan said, he'll go back to the Qing family to make arrangements and await Senior Lan's arrival. The two of them exchanged a few more pleasantries before leaving. Before Qingjin left, she gave Yun Chujio a vicious glance before catching up to Qin Yuankui. Yun Chujio curled her lips and did not say anything. The Lan family's ancestor did not say anything to Yun Chujio. Instead, he asked her to continue buying spirit tools. Chapter 52-59 Matters of the Qing Family. Yun Chujio knew that the old ancestor of the Lan family was preparing to deal with her at night. This fellow was not afraid at all. Anyway, the old fox could not beat her up. At most, she would cry, make a fuss and hang herself. Thus, this fellow returned to the shop in high spirits. When the old shopkeeper saw that Yun Chujio had returned safely, he revealed a somewhat relieved expression. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and said to the old shopkeeper, Old man, I want to buy some high-grade spirit tools. Why don't we talk in private? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. The old shopkeeper was experienced and naturally understood that Yun Chujio wanted to find an opportunity to talk to him in private. He hesitated for a moment and said, Miss, please follow me to the second floor to take a look. When the two of them reached the second floor, the old shopkeeper said apologetically, I'm really sorry to have implicated you in the previous matter. Yun Chujio smiled and said, It has nothing to do with you. It's that Qingjin who is looking for trouble. I'm not afraid of her. The old shopkeeper had already heard about Yun Chujio's identity from the onlookers. After hesitating for a moment, he said, Miss, although your Lan family is quite powerful, this is still the Qing family's territory after all. Moreover, the Qing family is now in a period of trouble, and the second branch is extremely overbearing. It's better to be careful. Yun Chujio's heart moved slightly and she said, Previously, I heard your conversation with Qingjin. It seems that you are a member of the Qing family's eldest branch. Why are the second branch so arrogant? Aren't they afraid of being punished by the master of the Qing family? The old shopkeeper wanted to say something but hesitated, as if he did not want to say anything more. Yun Chujio could understand. After all, this was a private matter of the Qing family, and it was not appropriate to tell outsiders. However, she could tell from what had just happened that this old shopkeeper was loyal to the Qing family. She could start from there. Hence, she sighed and said, Sigh, it is common for families of large families to fight each other. You also know the reputation of our Lan family. There are countless cases like this. Therefore, I can completely understand the feelings of the old man. The Lan family had always been famous for internal strife. Therefore, the old shopkeeper let down some of his guard when he heard this. He also had no one to complain to. He clenched his teeth and said, All right, since Mrs. asked, I will say it simply. At least let the world know how despicable the second branch of the Qing family is. Although there are quite a number of collateral branches of the Qing family, The main branch and the second branch are the only direct descendants. The head of the Qing family has not decided on the next head of the Qing family, so the main branch and the second branch have been managing the Qing family's property together, so it is quite peaceful. However, in the past 2 years the head of the Qing family has appeared less and less, and the second branch has been regarded more highly. The second branch has also become more arrogant, brazenly stealing the properties of the main branch. It is said that in 2 days the second branch's Qing Zhenghe will be announced to the public as the next head of the Qing family. When that time comes, the people of the main branch will definitely be driven out of the ancestral house, and their lives may not even be saved. Then, the master of the Qing family will just let it go? The eldest branch will just let the second branch bully them without retaliating? Yin Chuzhou asked, puzzled. Sai, this is the order of the master. What can the eldest branch do? Moreover, the eldest branch was originally prosperous, but they were stupid, disabled, and missing. Even if they wanted to fight with the second branch, they wouldn't be able to win. The shopkeeper sighed. Yin Chujia's eyes flashed. Stupid? Disabled? Missing? It was most likely the second branch's doing. The old shopkeeper sighed and said, Miss, it's fine if you listen to these things. I advise you to leave this Fog Valley city quickly. Otherwise the second branch will take revenge. Chapter 5260. Hey Shinjio gets scolded. Yun Chuzhou listened to the old shopkeeper's words and smiled non-committally. She did not continue the previous topic but said, I got into trouble today. When I go back I will be scolded by the old ancestor. I wonder if the shopkeeper can make it easy for me to buy more spiritual weapons? The old shopkeeper was stunned at first, but then he smiled bitterly in his heart. He thought that this little girl was concerned about the Qing family, but it turned out that her ultimate goal was this. However, seeing that she had suffered an undeserved disaster, he could also be lenient. After all, in a few days this shop would most likely fall into the hands of the second branch, so he might as well give her a favor. Thus, Hei Shinjio bought a bunch of spirit tools that she liked. As for the additional conditions, she could not do it, so she asked the old shopkeeper to change the other conditions. As the saying goes, rules are dead and people are alive. Hei Shinjio had always been very knowledgeable about this. That evening, Hei Shinjio hopped back to the inn that she had booked. This guy knew that he would be scolded at night. Therefore, on the way back this guy finished his dinner. Even if it was a big matter, he couldn't go hungry, right? As expected, as soon as he entered the inn, this guy was called to his room by the ancestor of the Lan family. Kneel? The Lan family's ancestor shouted sternly. Yun Chuzhou cursed in her heart, kneel my ass. I will kneel to the sky, kneel to the ground, and kneel to my parents in the middle. I want kneel to you, you old fox. As this fellow thought so, he knelt on the ground. Sigh, there was no choice. A small arm couldn't beat a thigh. As for face, it was better to rub it, and eat it. The ancestor of the Lan family said with a gloomy face, Did I feed all the words I told you to the dogs? You set aside the troubles on the ground and don't stir up trouble in the sky. You are really capable. Yun Chuzhou knelt down obediently and did not say anything. She thought to herself if she really had the ability she would not kneel down to this old fox. The ancestor of the Lan family continued to lecture. That maid of Qing Jin spoke rudely. Why didn't you reveal your identity? If that Qing Jin knew your identity, things wouldn't have developed to this extent no matter what. Did you do it on purpose? Yun Chuzhou was not happy this time. Although she had a stomach full of evil thoughts, she definitely did not think of this at that time. She just subconsciously questioned Qing Jin, so she did not think of anything to reveal her identity. This fellow immediately began to cry, Old ancestor, it doesn't matter if you scold me, but you can't malign me. At that time I was furious with that servant girl. My first reaction was naturally to seek justice, so how could I still think about the matter of my status? Old ancestor, I always thought that you doted on me, but today I suffered such a great grievance and was bullied by the Qing father and daughter, and you still scolded me? I'm really too sad. Woo, the ancestor of the Lan family was very annoyed by this fellow's crying, and said impatiently, Why are you crying? Why didn't you cry when you scratched her face? Now you know how to cry. Originally, I wanted to buy a few top-grade spirit tools from the Qing family, but now that you've scratched the face of the daughter of the second wife, why would you buy a fart? The ancestor was obviously very angry, or else he wouldn't have even cursed it out loud. He was so regretful that his intestines were turning green. If he had known earlier, he would not have brought this troublemaker here. On the first day he had already caused a huge disaster for him. He was so angry. Elder Tua tried to mediate the situation from the side. Master, since it has already happened, there is no use blaming it anymore. Let's think of a way to deal with it. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5261 Was thick-skinned. The ancestor of the Lan family said unhappily, a countermeasure? What kind of countermeasure can there be? For my sake, it's already good enough for the Qing family not to kill her, let alone sell her to us with high-end spiritual weapons. The ancestor of the Lan family glared at He Xingjiu when he said this. It was all because of this troublemaker. Yun Chujio wiped her tears and said through gritted teeth, if they don't sell it to us, we will rob them. Lan family's patriarch, Elder Tua, Lan family's patriarch was speechless and scolded, to think that you are so smart. If the Qing family of the Valley of Fog is so easy to provoke, do you think other forces will always be so quiet? Patriarch, I'm not talking about robbing openly. We are going to do it covertly, Yun Chujio said with a smile. The Lan family's forefather and Elder Tua were stunned when they saw the brilliant smile on her face. The Lan family's forefather asked, what do you mean? Forefather, the Qing family is in deep trouble now, and their minds are all focused on internal strife. Well, observe when we get to the Qing family. If the eldest branch can help us get up, we might as well help the eldest branch kill the second branch. In this way, the eldest branch will have to repay us with good things. If the eldest branch is unable to stand up, then we will think of a way to extort money from the second branch. After all, we will not be at a disadvantage. Yun Chujio said. The Lan family's ancestor frowned. What you said is easy. We only brought a few hundred guards. What can we do? Moreover, this is the Qing family's family matter. We don't need to involve ourselves in danger. If we succeed, that's good. If we fail, the consequences will be unimaginable. Yun Chujio curled her lips slightly. Forefather, to put it bluntly, even if I didn't offend Qing Jin today, you would have returned empty-handed when you went to the Qing family? Forefather frowned immediately. What do you mean? He Xingjiu said with a smile. Forefather, my blood is not flowing smoothly while I'm kneeling here. My head won't turn. What do you think? The ancestor of the Lan family was so angry that he was amused. Get up. It's fine if you say Ziwuin Lai, but if you say something without thinking, humph. He Xingjiu chuckled and stood up. She said shamelessly, I know that you are sharp-tongued but soft-hearted ancestor. You love me the most. Yun Chujio had never known how to be reserved. She sat on a chair beside her and poured herself a cup of tea as she spoke. The corner of the old ancestor's eyes twitched. This troublemaker was so thick-skinned that he didn't know who he was following. Yun Chujio sipped half a cup of tea and then said, Old ancestor, I didn't think too much at first, but after I found out about the internal strife of the Qing family, I thought of something. What is it? I heard from Ji Su of the Zen sect that he was injured by the people of the bitter Zen sect during the Dharma assembly of 10,000 Buddhas with the King of Hell torrential rain needle. It was said that the King of Hell torrential rain needle took a lot of time and effort. The Qing family of the Valley of Fog basically did not sell it to the public, and only a few people in the family had it. However, among the people of the bitter Zen sect who took the stage, 2 of them had the King of Hell torrential rain needle, which was obviously a little unusual. One must know that the bitter Zen sect has always been hidden from the world. How did they receive the special treatment from the Qing family of the Valley of Fog? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Therefore, there must be something fishy going on here. Perhaps the reason why the Qing family's second branch won the internal conflict was because they received the help of the bitter Zen sect. When the Lan family's patriarch and Elder Tua heard this, they immediately looked at each other in shock. Chapter 5262. Yun Chujius guest Yun Chujio continued, the bitter Zen sect is connected to the Divine Devil Hall, so the second branch of the Qing family naturally doesn't like our Lan family. Why would they sell us high-end spiritual artifacts? This is still a small matter. Perhaps the Qing family has already set up an ambush for us to sneak in and kill us. After all, the Divine Devil Hall can predict that once the Qi family cuts off our spiritual artifact supply, you will have to come to the Qing family in the Valley of Fog to purchase them. This is a good opportunity to kill you. As for me, I am purely a gift. At this moment, the face of the Lan family's old ancestor could not be described with an ugly expression. It was so gloomy that it was almost dripping water. Although he felt that most of what Yun Chujio said was just speculation, he had to admit that what she said made sense. If the Qing family and the Divine Devil Hall had colluded, Then if he went to the Qing family, it would definitely be a disaster. Then the question was, should he go to the Qing family or not? If he didn't want to go, he could find a random reason to return to the Lan family right away. However, if her speculation was wrong, then he would have wasted an opportunity to buy things. Seeing that the patriarch of the Lan family was like this, Yun Chujio didn't continue to speak, but slowly drank her tea. Several thoughts flashed through the patriarch of the Lan family's mind, and he looked at Yun Chujio. What do you plan to do? Yun Chujio put down her teacup. Patriarch, the enemy of the enemy is a friend. If the Qing family is really in cahoots with the bitter Zen sect, then the Zen sect will be our biggest help. You can send a message to Master Liaowu and tell him my guess. He will definitely agree if I ask the Zen sect to come over and help. Tell the Zen sect to hide in the vicinity of the Fog Valley. We will go to the Qing family to check out their background first. If they really fall out with each other, we will not be afraid of them. The ancestor of the Lan family frowned. If your guess is wrong and the bitter Zen sect has nothing to do with the second branch of the Qing family, how will we explain it to the Zen sect? Won't they have wasted their trip? Yun Chujio shrugged. It's okay. If that's the case, leave the matter of appeasing the Zen sect to me. The ancestor of the Lan family and Elder Tuo discussed it again. In the end, they decided to do as Yun Chujio said. In this way, it was better to be prepared. Otherwise, if the second branch of the Qing family really harbored evil intentions, it would be bad. Yun Chujio thought for a while and said, looking at the situation today, that Qing Yuankui and Qing Jin probably didn't know about it. Otherwise they wouldn't have provoked me. Old ancestor, what is the composition of the Qing family? The old master of the Qing family has passed away many years ago. The current master is Qing Yuanqi's grandfather, Qing Haotian. The eldest son of the Qing family was originally a prosperous man. However, in recent years he had encountered some unforeseen circumstances. Some died, some were stupid, some were disabled, and some went missing. It could be said that there were only a few people left. Now, only Qing Yuanda, who was of the same generation as Qing Yuankui, was left struggling. There was no way for him to compete with the second son. The head of the second son is Qing Shaoqing, Qing Yuanqi's father. The number of people is prosperous, so I won't list them one by one. What is Qing Haotian like? The Qing family's eldest branch is in such a miserable situation, and he doesn't care? Yun Chujio asked in confusion. The ancestor of the Lan family shook his head. I haven't seen Qing Haotian in all these years. Every time I come to Qinggu, he is in closed-door cultivation. I don't know the details. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. She thought that Qing Haotian must have been controlled by the second branch. Otherwise she wouldn't have left him alone. TSK, the affairs of the Qing family were really interesting. She loved to help the weak and help the strong. If the Qing family's eldest branch was pleasing to the eye, she could also help them. Chapter 5263 Qing Sihei Shinjio, who was immersed in the character of a heroine, was instantly exposed by Buttface. Little fairy, the reason why you want to help the master of the Qing family is to get more spiritual artifacts, right? You are getting worse and worse. Get lost. Hey Shinjio shouted angrily. This damned Buttface was simply a scheming dog. Nothing could be hidden from him. Hey Shinjio discussed with the Lan family's ancestor and old Tuo for a while before returning to her room. The Guai Chao in her dantian was trying its best to act cute. It wanted Yun Chujio to let it out for a walk, but it had no choice. The small amount of money it had previously had was all used up. Yun Chujio scolded it a few times, but when she thought of its good behavior in the Lan family's guards camp, she still let it out. Guai Chao cursed it in its heart. Let's see. This was the reason why it could not be discovered by her. There was nothing to be said about this wretched girl if she was in a good mood. If she was in a bad mood, she would scold it. Therefore, it was better for her to control her freedom. She was determined not to let her discover that she had a small treasury. Alas, that jinx would expose it sooner or later. Therefore, it had to enjoy it in time to avoid regret in the future. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Therefore, not long after it came out, it pretended to disappear. Yun Chujio could not help but be stunned. How did it disappear so quickly? However, she did not think about it carefully. She thought that she did not release much spiritual power just now. After Yun Chujio washed up, she lay on the bed and pondered about the Qing family in the Valley of Fog. Then she suddenly sat up. She remembered. No wonder she felt that Qing Jin's appearance was somewhat familiar, because that Qing Jin and Qing Si looked somewhat similar. Thinking of Qing Si, Yun Chujia's thoughts could not help but drift away. When she applied for the Linghua sect back then, she lacked a person. There was a little beggar who volunteered to join them, and that person was Qing Si. The thing that left the deepest impression on her was that Qing Si said that the reason she ran away from home was because her family valued sons over daughters. She wanted to prove it to her family. Another impression was that Qing Si had once saved Yun Chuki and the others with an attack-capable flying spiritual device. However, she had always kept her identity a secret, so she did not ask much about it. Qing Si? Qing Jin? Could it be that Qing Si was really related to the Qing family of the Valley of Fog? However, how did she get from the Chongshao continent to such a low-class continent like the Qingshan continent? Yun Chujio could not figure it out no matter how much she thought about it. She wished that she could ask someone right away, but who could she ask? Her eyes lit up. She could ask that old shopkeeper tomorrow morning. He would definitely know. Yun Chujio recalled many things in the Linghua sect and thought of Yun Chuki and the others that she had not seen for a long time. She could not help but feel a little down. She did not know how they were doing. Although she wanted to go back to see them, she could not protect herself now. If she left the Lan family's protection rashly, she would be courting death. Yun Chujio did not sleep well that night. Early the next morning, she arrived at the shop from yesterday. The old shopkeeper saw Yun Chujio and could not help but be stunned. This little girl bought a lot of good things from his shop yesterday. Why did she come again? The old shopkeeper was a little unhappy. This little girl looked smart, but he did not expect her to be greedy. Yun Chujio did not pay attention to the old shopkeeper's expression. She said with some urgency, "Shopkeeper, I have something important to ask you. Let's go to a convenient place to talk." The old shopkeeper pursed his lips in his heart. Didn't she just want him to open the back door to buy things? However, the old shopkeeper thought about it. This little girl was from the Lan family. He could not afford to offend her. It was better to listen to what she had to say. Chapter 5264, The Third Miss of the Qing Family. The old shopkeeper brought Yun Chujio to the second floor again and asked, "Miss, what's the important matter?" "Old man, do you know a woman named Qing Si?" Yun Chujio asked urgently. The old shopkeeper could not help but be stunned. "You mean the third miss?" Yun Chujio took out a pen and paper from her storage ring. After a simple sketch, a beautiful woman leaped onto the paper. The old shopkeeper was shocked by Yun Chujio's amazing painting skills. He then said, "That's right. This is the third miss of the eldest house. Do you know her?" Although Yun Chujio was prepared for this, she was still a little surprised. She did not expect that she would find Qing Si's family after going around in circles. However, Qing Si should not be in the Qing family right now. After all, no matter how fast her cultivation speed was, she should not be able to reach the level of ascending to the Chongshao continent. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, she heard the old shopkeeper sigh and say, "Third miss is also a poor person. She is the only girl in the same generation as the eldest branch, so she is very doted on. However, she disappeared for some unknown reason. The eldest branch sent many people to search for her, but they were unable to find her. A few days ago the second branch found her. However, the second branch definitely did not have good intentions. It's just that I don't know what they are planning." Yun Chujio suddenly raised her voice. "You're saying that Sister Qing Si has already returned to the Qing family?" The old shopkeeper nodded. He was very puzzled. Could it be that this little girl knew the third miss? But how did she know the third miss? Yun Chujio naturally would not explain her doubts. This fellow no longer had the mood to buy any more spirit tools. He wished that he could immediately go to Qinggu to see Qing Si. However, she knew that she could not rush this matter. Even if she saw Qing Si, she could not simply recognize her. She had to find out more about the Qing family first. When Qing Si first met them, she said that she had run away from home because her family valued sons over daughters. However, during their interaction later on, it was obvious that Qing Si had something on her mind. However, she did not want to say it. It was not appropriate for her to ask. Moreover, the most important question was, how did she get from the Chongshao continent to the Qingshan continent? Was the second branch involved in this? Also, why did the second branch kindly find Qing Si back? There might be a conspiracy behind this. Yun Chujio chatted with the old shopkeeper for a while, then left the shop and continued to arrange for people to buy spiritual artifacts. Finally, the day to go to the Qing family in the Valley of Fog arrived. Unexpectedly, Qing Yuankue actually brought people to personally pick up the Lan family's patriarch, and his attitude was clearly much more attentive than before. The Lan family's patriarch and elder Tua exchanged a look without batting an eyelid. It seemed that the troublemaker was right. The Qing family's second branch indeed had a plot. This Qing Yuankui did not know about it before, and now obviously knew about Qing Shiacheng's plans, so he strongly invited them to the Valley of Fog. The ancestor of the Lan family said a few polite words, then he left Foggy Valley City with Qing Yuankui. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Green Valley was not too far from Foggy Valley City. After more than 2 hours, they arrived at the entrance of Green Valley. The entrance of Green Valley was much more heavily guarded than Foggy Valley City. Moreover, the entrance was easy to defend and hard to attack. In addition, the Qing family had many exquisite spirit weapons. Therefore, after so many years, no matter how much the outside world fought, no force dared to provoke the Green family of Fog Valley. Yun Chujio sighed in her heart. It was a pity that the disaster had caused a wall. If she and the Lan family did not intervene, the Green family of Fog Valley would probably be destroyed by the second son of the Qing family. Chapter 5265, as expected, had a plot. Qinggu occupied a large area, and the people living here were mostly the direct descendants and side branches of the Qing family. The ancestral home of the Qing family was located in the middle of Qinggu. As soon as they arrived at the entrance of the ancestral home, an old man led a group of people to wait at the entrance. It was Qing Shaoqing, the father of the head of the second branch, Qing Yuankui. Qing Shaoqing and Lan Dimeo were of the same generation, so he was the junior of the ancestor of the Lan family, so it was reasonable for him to come out to welcome them. After Qing Shaoqing bowed to the junior, he said warmly, "Senior Lan's arrival has graced the Qing family. It's a great honor. Senior, please come in." The Lan family's patriarch said a few polite words and led his men into the ancestral mansion. It was impossible for the guards to follow him to the reception hall. Qing Yuankui arranged for the guards to be taken to other places. The Lan family's patriarch didn't have any unusual reaction. He wanted to see what the Qing family's second son wanted to do. After they arrived at the guest hall and sat down, the ancestor of the Lan family proposed to see the master of the Qing family. Qing Shaoqing sighed, "Father's health is getting worse and worse. He is in a depressed mood and does not leave the courtyard. Moreover, he does not see outsiders. Please forgive me, Senior Lan." The ancestor of the Lan family sneered in his heart, but he said with concern on his face, "Then we should hurry and find someone to treat him. Do not delay." Qing Shaoqing sighed and said a few perfunctory words, then said, "Senior Lan, you should be here this time to buy some high-grade spirit weapons, right?" After seeing the ancestor of the Lan family nod, he said, "According to the friendship between our two families, there is naturally no problem. It's just that the latest batch of spirit weapons hasn't been completed yet. Senior, why don't you stay at the Qing family first and let me do my best as a host?" If the Lan family's ancestor had some doubts about Yun Chujia's guest before, he was now very sure that Qing Shaoqing had other intentions. Because even if the latest batch of spiritual artifacts hadn't been completed, he could still bring them to the warehouse to pick out some suitable spiritual artifacts. There was no need to deliberately delay the time. The Lan family's ancestor sneered in his heart, but he said on the surface, "All right, then it'll have to trouble you." A faint light flashed in Qing Shiacheng's eyes, and he immediately smiled and said, "Senior, you are too kind. We can't usually invite such an important guest like you. How can we talk about disturbing you?" The ancestor of the Lan family said a few more polite words, and Qing Shaoqing let Qing Yuankui bring the three ancestors of the Lan family to the guest house to rest first. Qing Yuankui immediately brought the three of them to a beautifully decorated guest house, and left after saying a few polite words. Yun Chujio went to her room and washed up briefly. There were handmaidens arranged in the guest house and they served her very well. Yun Chujio was thinking about Qing Si, but she couldn't ask about it rashly. Not long after, a handmaiden came in and reported, "Miss Yun, the second miss is waiting at the entrance of the guest house. She said that she wants to accompany you to the back garden of the ancestral residence for a walk." Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. This was her chance. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." After she greeted the Lan family's ancestor, she followed the maid out of the guest house. The moment she left the guest house, she saw Qing Jin with a stiff smile. Qing Jin's face should have been smeared with a good ointment. At this moment only a faint scar was left. She believed that she would recover to her original state in a few days. However, she had never suffered such cowardice. She wished that she could tear Yun Chujio into 10,000 pieces. However, when she thought of her father's instructions, she could only say with a stiff face, "Sister Yun, we don't know each other until we fight. Let me accompany you to the garden." Yun Chujio said with a smile, "Sister Qingjin, you are really magnanimous. I admire you." Chapter 5266. Meeting Qingjin's expression became even more rigid. She suppressed the raging anger in her heart and said, "Sister Yun, you must be joking. Please follow me." The two of them chatted without any awkwardness along the way. Yun Chujio was extremely tired for Qingjin. She clearly wished that she could strangle herself to death, but she could not act out. Yun Chujio quickly figured out Qingjin's motive. She wanted to learn about the arrangements of the Lan family's ancestor from her. She was probably afraid that the Lan family's ancestor would have a backup plan. If she acted rashly, she would be in trouble. Yun Chujio spoke a few words, but Qingjin could not figure out the true meaning of Yun Chujio's words at the moment. Therefore, she could only continue the awkward conversation. The Qing family's garden was not large, but there were a lot of exotic flowers and plants. It was quite pleasing to the eye. Yun Chujio was thinking about how to change the topic to Qing Si when she saw a woman walking toward her. Behind her was a maid. Yun Chujio recognized the woman at a glance. It was Qing Si. Shock flashed across Qing Si's eyes, but it quickly faded away and turned into a face of indifference. Qingjin immediately vented her frustration at Yun Chujio on Qing Si. With a fake smile, she said, "Third sister, why didn't you take good care of your crippled brothers and stupid uncle in the yard? Why did you have the time to go to the garden to admire the flowers?" Qing Si's expression did not change. She said, "I picked a few herbs to make medicine. If second sister has nothing else to do, I'll take my leave." Qingjin pursed her lips and said with malicious intent, "Don't waste your energy. They won't recover. You should worry about yourself. The good days are coming soon." "Thank you for your concern, second sister. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." Qing Si's expression remained unchanged, but her tightly clenched hands revealed her thoughts. Qingjin snorted coldly. "You're too unruly. Don't you see a guest? Haven't you seen Sister Yun? But that's true. A person who eloped at such a young age doesn't know what rules are." A trace of anger instantly flashed through Qing Si's eyes. However, at this moment she heard Yun Chujio clearly say, "Sister Qingjin, who is this?" Qingjin said disdainfully, "At this moment, Qing Si from the main branch is ranked third. So it's Sister Qing Si. That's great. I'm still the youngest. In the future, he'll have another person to bully," Yun Chujio said with a smile. Qing Si's eyes reddened when she heard this. She was too familiar with this sentence. Back in the Linghua sect, when they first met, little Jiao had said this sentence. Qingjin did not know the whole story. When she saw Qing Si's eyes redden, she thought that she was angered by Yun Chujio's words. She said impatiently, "Sister Yun, ignore her. Let's go inside and take a look." Yun Chujio nodded and did not speak to Qing Si anymore. She directly walked past her and followed Qingjin. Qing Si did not have any unusual reactions. She brought the maid back to the main room. As soon as Qing Si entered the courtyard, she heard silly laughter and shouting. She knew that it must be some uncle's stupidity again. At this moment, she heard the sound of coughing coming from the study again. She did not care about what had just happened and hurriedly brewed the medicine with the maid, Rendong. She couldn't help it. The servants of the main room had either been chased out or had taken refuge with the second room. Now she could only use this Rendong by her side. After the medicine was brewed, Qing Si carried the medicine into the study. A middle-aged man sat in the study. He had a handsome face, but his pale face indicated that his health was very poor. "Father, I brewed the medicine. Please drink it quickly." Qing Si said with concern, "You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."